back to the gaggle, where we challenge and, if necessary, destroy media narratives. So, um, since we last spoke, I mean, there have been a number of developments. Random says, "Aren't you guys in different time zones?" You're right. We're in a very different time zones. I am in the Central European uh, time zone. As you know, here in Central Europe, everything is, of course, very grim and depressing. That's a given. But yes, it's a Central European time zone. But anyway, um, uh, it's now looking as if Georgia and North Carolina um, are in, in Trump's camp. I mean, they no one has called them yet, but it's clear that Trump will carry Georgia, he will carry North Carolina, and it's looking like Arizona will also um, be carried by Trump. So then we're back to the familiar scenario, which is that Harris needs to basically, she needs to run the entire blue wall. That's her only chance of victory. And Nate Cohn of New York Times says that it's very unlikely that she can pull that off. That she can take all three of the Great Lakes states. That's really a tall order. Wisconsin is a reach for her, and she's not doing as well in Pennsylvania as was Biden. And then we saw also there were problems in Michigan. That doesn't mean it's out of the realm of possibility. But I think the New York Times is now saying Trump has a 72% chance of victory. So we'll have to see. It's all moving much more quickly than we had expected. I mean, we all thought that this was going to be something that would just drag on and on and on for forever, as it did in 2020. But that's not really what's happening. So because it's looking as if some of the battleground states are going to be called reasonably soon. But of course, again, we'll see if they're going to be calls and issues. I mean, Norm Eisen is still around. Mark Elias is still around, and so we'll see. But the problem that the Democrats have is that, having made all these assertions about, well, this is the freest, fairest, most scrupulous election. Cynthia, cheers, George. Thanks for hosting. Thank you, Cynthia. That's very nice of you. It is quite late here, so but here we do what we can at the gaggle. But the problem for the Democrats is, having made this whole song and dance about how, oh well, how dare anyone call into question the integrity of the vote count and the integrity of the election process, and only terrible people like Trump and Putin can possibly call the process into question. They're kind of stuck with that. They can't now turn around and attack this very process. So they're boxed in, really. I mean, I guess they have one. Well, I mean, they have some tricks up their sleeve. I mean, obviously, the Putin Musk factor is going to play a role. I mean, we've already seen the attacks on Musk from Rachel Maddow the other day. That this is going to escalate. I mean, if Trump does prevail, they will escalate this. The attacks on Musk, there was Musk, all the disinformation campaign and so on. and that I think is going to happen, and we'll see whether Biden will succeed in canceling any contracts or put in place some kind of investigations of Musk, or try to do as much damage to Musk as possible between now and January the 20th. So I think that's going to be the. So in other words, Russia, Putin, there's still that they can play that card, but they haven't laid the groundwork sufficiently for that in the way that they did in 2016, because they've been talking about Russia for some time before Obama launched the whole thing. Robert says Polymarket is now at 87% Trump, 12% Harris. Yeah, that's right. And as I say, New York Times is now saying 72% Trump, because he's going to take all the Sunbelt states. So Harris really has to run the table on the blue wall, and it's just not looking like it. She just hasn't really. The vote hasn't delivered for her, and this African American TT asks, has Trump won? Not yet, I think would be the fairest way, but he does seem to be on track to do so. Um, and it's looking like we could have a result tonight. I mean, that's which no one could have predicted. That everyone assumed, oh, this is going to drag on for weeks and weeks, but it's looking like that. So there is that. Now, the other aspect of it is that if Trump does win tonight, what will DJ? Good to see you, Wolf. Yeah, thank you very much. Those dogs. I mean, they're absolute scoundrels. They don't really do anything, but they accuse me of not doing anything. But thank you very much. So if the Republicans hold on to the House, then Trump will be able to be certified on January the 6th. If the Democrats do succeed in taking the House, and that's still not clear, then that option will go into effect, that they will not certify Trump on January the 6th. I mean, they've already made that clear, that if the Democrats have even a majority of one, they will not certify a Trump win. So Cynthia says, if Trump gets in, the left will riot. Yep. If Kamala gets in, she'll throw her opponents in prison. Yes, I think that's right. I think that's no question. But if it's now looking as if Trump wins, that means that the riots start, something like later on today. There'll be rioting throughout the United States, and then of course the question arises that the riots will probably take place in cities run by Democratic mayors and in states run by Democratic governors. They almost certainly will do nothing to bring the riots under control. This will be like the summer of George Floyd, with a huge boost, because they'll just say, "Hey, America is degenerating into civil war. America is degenerating into ungovernability because of Donald Trump." And they're hoping that maybe that will lead to some people in Congress to think, well, maybe we shouldn't certify a Trump win. Do we really want America to degenerate into a civil war? So it will be a calculated decision to instigate riots in order to force the Congress to consider, what should we really certify Trump? I mean, because in a way, like the riots of 2020 were instigated precisely in order to undermine the authority of Trump. So Trump will get blamed for the riots. But again, if there are riots now, again, Trump will be blamed for it. Oh, Trump is so divisive. Trump is so terrible. Look, half the country is rioting. And then Robert says Rent-a-Mob was out in force in D.C. when Trump was inaugurated in 2017. Yeah, no, that obviously it was. But the Rent-a-Mob, I think, is going to be out if he wins. I mean, I think the Rent-a-Mob will be out by tomorrow, and I think this is just going to be ongoing. For weeks and months, they're just going to be riots throughout America. And I think it would be with a view to pressuring Congress into not certifying Trump. I mean, I don't think it's going to work if the Republicans have the majority in the House. If they don't, then there's just no way that Trump will be certified. That's a possibility that that Trump will not be certified. And then DJ says, I hope Trump doesn't quote Bobby Kennedy. Now it's on to Chicago. No, I guess not. So there's that to look forward to. Let's see what's on Fox News. Let's see if we can see what they're up to. Okay, this is Britt Hume.
She had a narrower path. And the betting odds, by the way, are now up to 83% for Trump. And started at 58%. It's climbed all through the evening to 69.
I think you should have a green eyeshade.
Anyway, and there are other models are now predicting him well in excess.
Stock market futures are also trading higher as well.
I do think, just to go back to this Milwaukee point that we were talking about during the break, I mean, they are rerunning 30,000 absentee votes in Milwaukee tonight because they couldn't, there was a problem with the processing. 31,000 absentee ballots after the Election Observer brought to the officials' attention that doors covering on and off switches on the devices, I guess, some of them weren't tallying and they were worried about it. So just for integrity purposes, they're rerunning all those ballots. So we might not hear the full and final counting from Milwaukee until tomorrow.
AP Vodecast has Trump winning 23% of black men.
Mm-hmm. That's staggering.
Nationwide. I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
Staggering.
Where's that from?
AP Vodecast.
And that has to be
consistent with our
defeat for the mainstream media, who's just destroyed Donald Trump as a racist for all these years. And if you double the support with black people, and then you go up double digits with your support with Hispanics at the same time, and then run up the numbers with Jewish Americans here in the Northeast, that's a complete rejection of everything that they've been telling us about Donald Trump, and would explain why he's very competitive in the popular vote.
And the news cycle for how long went on and on about the Seltzer poll in Iowa. Trump, it looks like he's going to win Iowa by 8 to 10 percentage points. Well, Seltzer. I don't remember what that was called, but it was like he was going to lose Iowa. I mean,
let's go back to Pennsylvania really quick. I know you're in Wisconsin, but can we just go to Pennsylvania?
I sure can.
And this is
I want to come back to this. It's a fascinating story. It's happening in Wisconsin. Okay, so go ahead, Brett, with your question in Pennsylvania.
Lackawanna County. This is
Lackawanna County. You got it. Let me come back to current day. Right, it's 2024, isn't it, guys?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I do believe. Okay. So. I'm kidding. So this is Lackawanna. This is Scranton. Okay, so she's got an edge. Go ahead. She's got an edge of 51%.
The 2020 vote for that.
Okay, I'm going to do something here, and you're going to see a slide come out. All right, so you guys got to remember these numbers. All right, versus 2020. Here is Biden's number. So she's about. You do the math. 2.5 points below what Biden did, but she's winning the county too, and that's Scranton. Can I just show you guys something that I think we need to pay attention to? This is Wisconsin. All right, so you got your Fox Insights going here, okay? We talked about Dane, we talked about Milwaukee. What about Green Bay? That's Brown County, all right? Right now, with 46% of the vote reporting, in Brown County, which is Green Bay, Trump's up 3.6 points at this time in the night, okay? Take this off. We'll move down here to Outagamie, all right? He's up 1.8 points higher than he was 4 years ago. Take that off. This is Winnebago, right? Trump is up 1.3 points at this point in the vote, higher than he was 4 years ago. And, you know, when you're analyzing the state going into this election, those are three of the counties you're looking at where he's trying to like drive the numbers up, and he's able to do that. And so this is where we sit, you know, half a point. And not for nothing, guys, but sorry, come on back here. Not for nothing, but Robert Kennedy has racked up 8,000 votes in Wisconsin. And 2020 in Wisconsin, we'll get it here. Yeah, I got you. 20,682.
Wow.
Maybe it matters, guys. Or maybe it doesn't, but it's just something to point out right now. When we come back, I'll take you to Michigan. Some things happening there as well. Fascinating, too. Back on over there.
That's something to keep an eye on.
The 31,000 votes you talked about, Laura, you think they're going to count in the morning, and that's in Milwaukee, right? Which
They're
is heavily
reprocessing them. They've begun to reprocess them, but there's no indication as to when that's going to finish.
Because they had problems with the machine.
There was a problem with this on-off switching device on the machine or something. It's hard to understand
Laura,
what it
can I
actually
ask you a
is.
question? You just gave me the latest numbers. I've been looking at the betting odd numbers that Brett was talking about. They have moved massively
90%.
now to Donald Trump. New York Times has it massively to Donald Trump.
71%.
To a point that
The
Jesse,
needle.
yeah,
No,
the
the needle.
needle, right?
Yeah.
So we're really sitting here, and I think we got to take pause. There is a very strong possibility he will be elected the 47th president of the United States if these numbers, if these predictions end up being true. I don't want to get over our skis. We want to be careful. We want to be prudent. We're all looking at our sources. I'm listening very closely to everything Harold has to say and what he's offering. But if that is true, after all that they have thrown at this man, after all that they have done to this man, and with all the media that wouldn't even vet her and her radical positions, that the only person in
So there's a limit to how much I can listen to Sean Hannity. But in principle, what he's saying is correct. In that what they did to Trump, the onslaught, the lawfare, bringing all these criminal charges, the two federal cases, the two state cases, they're trying to bankrupt him. And in the end, he's still on track at this stage. It looks like he's on track to victory. That's a stunning defeat for the kind of the America's liberal political establishment. And we'll see if that holds. But that at this stage, if he does indeed win, it'll be a stunning defeat, which is why I'd have to think that they're going to try, other kinds of things, other tricks up their sleeve. Maybe another assassination attempt. Who knows? Yet another Russiagate. But because it's just too humiliating. I mean, if you go down this path and then you fail so spectacularly, you haven't been able to stop him. This is even worse than the humiliation of 2016. Anyway, that's the DJ says, by the way, Kenosha results in, I was one of the 48 votes for Brother West. Oh, congratulations. Well done. Well done. Congratulations. Denaki Polymarket just went vertical, predicting 88% chance of a Trump win. Okay, that's good. Angelo Giuliano, great channel. Keep it up, my friend. Oh, thank you so much. Random 789. Good night, George. I will watch you tomorrow at 1.75. Yeah, thank you, appreciate that. And then Jane T says, I have to admit that I'm a little disappointed. You'll have to explain why you're a little disappointed. Raymond says Trump has the hide of a rhinoceros. I think he probably has. He does have. I mean, you'd have to say he is a remarkable human being. I mean, it's that he has been able to withstand so many attacks on him. These kinds of criminal cases. I mean, they are very stressful. I mean, they want to send you to prison for, I don't know, whatever, 700 years. And there's no question, if he loses this election, he will go to prison. I mean, there's absolutely no, he will go to prison. Neither Biden nor Harris will pardon him. So he loses, he goes to prison. I mean, as it is, on November the 26th, he has the sentencing hearing. If he were to lose, I think this judge, Merchan in New York, would send him to prison. I don't think now, if he wins, I don't think he would dare to send a president-elect to prison. But if he were to lose, absolutely, he would send him to Rikers Island straight away. And then Stone River, thank you very much, Stone River, for your generosity. Passing the hat round for a ticket to New York City for George to join the Fox election evening panel in 2028. I appreciate that. That's very nice. I don't think they would invite me, but I thank you very much for that sentiment. That's really nice of you. Raymond says the Democrats must now be disbanded. Yeah, I agree with that, and I have to say, it is heartening that if everything works out fine and he's Trump is declared the winner, that something is done with the Democratic Party, because the Democrats, I think that they should have paid a price for 2016. Instead, they were able to manufacture out of whole cloth the Russiagate hoax, absolutely catastrophic for the country, for the world. And they didn't even suffer any price for it, because in 2018, the midterms, they retook the House. And I thought that they would suffer a price. I thought this Russiagate is such a fraud, it's such a lie, it's so deceitful, that surely the American people are going to punish the Democrats, and they didn't. And then 2020, they came along. They manufactured the whole George Floyd nonsense. They instigated violence after George Floyd, and they got their reward of winning back the White House. And it was, again, this is really disgusting. And now, finally, maybe tonight, they got their just desserts. They got their comeuppance. And now, you're absolutely right. The Democrats should be disbanded, because now they really have to rethink that party and where it goes, whether they can go on lying and deceiving the public in this way, manufacturing all these fraudulent stories, whether it's Russiagate or, Trump said, fascists were good people, Trump, was an admirer of Hitler and all this stuff, and then waging these wars in Ukraine. I mean, so, you'd have to then think this is a party that just cannot go on. I mean, it's just a national disgrace. It's an organized criminal conspiracy, the Democratic Party. Anyway, and I think, yes. DJ, thank you very much. Thank you. Appreciate your generosity for George's big adventure in New York City. That would be good. But for me to, I don't think I'm going to get my hands on that, because I think that's the dogs, they just take the money. They don't give me any of it. So, it goes to the dogs first, and then I'd have to ask them, hey, can I have some of that? Nope. We get to keep that. But thank you so much. Robert says, with Trump, it's really the case that what didn't kill him made him much stronger. No, I think so. I think that it was amazing that he was able to withstand this, because at so many points along the road, I thought he just wouldn't be able to do it. I think that all these criminal cases, and then the one with the bankrupting him again, it looked very bleak for a time. They thought they're going to take it. They're going to force a sale of his properties, because he just hasn't got the money to pay this fine, or at least he doesn't have the cash on hand to pay this fine. They're going to force a sale of his prized properties. He's managed to prevail against this, and that whole assassination attempt was just extraordinary. I mean, he gets up, he just bounces up, and then does that whole fight thing. That requires a superhuman kind of energy, because anybody else would just be cowering in terror on the ground, but he didn't. He just sort of bounced right up. And I thought, for all he knew, the assassin was still around, or in some other assassin was still around and could shoot him. So he is, I think, an extraordinary individual, and even he's 78 years old, and then he does those four. On when was it? On Monday, he did four of these rallies in one day. It just requires superhuman energy. But for a 78-year-old, that's something. Meg Gallucci says, looking good for Trump. Yeah. 2020 Ghost says, good day, George. It looks like a blowout so far. Okay. Meg Gallucci says, Orban won't have to leave the country. No, I think that Orban is probably up. He like Trump, he's not somebody who sleeps very much. So I think he's probably up watching the results. And I think he'd probably be, kind of celebrating. He probably thinks he's going to be the first guest in the White House. He probably will be. I mean, after January the 20th, if they allow him to take the oath, which is by no means a done deal. The Democrats are going to do whatever they can to prevent his inauguration. But if Trump is inaugurated, I probably Orban will be the first guest, which will be quite a coup for Hungary. I mean, the Hungarian prime minister is the first guest of the American president, and that's elevating a very small country in world affairs. Jane T says, this seems to be clear too quickly. Oh, I think you wanted the more drama. I see. Okay. No, okay. I see what you mean. And Robert says, JHK calls the Democrats the party of chaos. Who's JHK? I don't know. Barry says George and Gagglers. Oh, thank you, Barry. The boy 26 says Kamala was even more unlikable than Hillary. Amazingly, that's an interesting question. Is she more unlikable than Hillary? They're kind of both equally unlikable. But Hillary has that horrible, that sharp, piercing voice, and she's smarter than Kamala, which makes her more dangerous, and I think they're more scary than Harris, because she's just smarter. She can formulate her thoughts much more cogently than Harris. Harris has no ability to formulate ideas. The question then is also what happens among the Democrats, because there's going to have to be a reckoning as to who came up with this brilliant idea of bundling Biden aside and inserting Harris in his place, because it was a reasonable assumption, at least on Biden's part, and and others' part, is that Biden probably has more of a chance, even in 2024, of defeating Trump than she had, because at least, first of all, Biden had gone through the whole democratic process, but also Biden at least was still seen by the electorate as good old Uncle Joe, Scranton Joe, a moderate, a centrist. He had that reputation, which she didn't have. And so there's going to be a reckoning as to the gang that bundled Biden aside, and that would be Obama, that would be Pelosi, and that'll be Chuck Schumer, because not only did they bundle Biden aside, they didn't allow for a process of at least the party gets to select of 3 or 4 possible candidates which one they're going to go for. Instead, they just pushed him aside and inserted Harris. Clearly wasn't a good idea. She really wasn't up to it. So there's going to be a reckoning. And Obama, given his stature, this may entirely destroy his reputation once and for all, which would be very nice. Anyway, Stone River says, still some hope for American democracy. I think so. I mean, I think if we have a Trump presidency, I think there's still an opportunity. If he doesn't blow it, I mean, he could blow it. He could be, be like he was in his first term, just kind of lazily, say, now I can just play golf and let everybody else just do their thing. So if he uses this opportunity wisely, to make some serious changes in the country, move America back to what it was, go backwards. I don't know. I'd say let's go back 50 years. That would be something. If he doesn't, if he once again, as we were discussing earlier, if once again he brings on Pompeo and all those clowns, then it'll be a wasted opportunity, and and then America can go on, declining at the usual nice crisp pace. So we'll just see whether he actually uses this opportunity a lot better than he did during his first term. But thank you very much, Stone River. And 2010, he's definitely in shape. John Magic says it appears Trump has won Georgia. Yeah, no, I think that was clearly that was heading towards that. And I think that he won Georgia, and then he won, and I think it's looking like he's going to take North Carolina. Yeah, so 20. Yeah, Trump has some serious stamina. Yeah. And it's it's a very interesting. I mean, I always think of as somebody who can keep going like that. He has to take some kind of a drug. He has to take some medication. But I've never heard that Trump takes any kind of medication or takes any kind of drug. I don't even know whether he drinks coffee. I mean, I know he doesn't drink alcohol, but I don't know. Does he drink coffee? So yeah, but I don't know, he gets his energy somehow, So JHK is James Howard Consular. Okay. And then 2020 is he eats chocolate espresso beans. Okay, maybe that's what it does. Meg Delucci, tough to beat Hillary in unlikableness. Yeah, I agree. I think it's she really is one of the least likable humans ever to walk the face of the earth. Really, really, really unlikable. Robert says a Trump victory spells the end of the Obama era. I think so. I mean, again, as I was saying earlier, I think if Harris were to assume the presidency, then this would be Obama's fourth term. And then you would say that of the last 20 years, 16 of them would have been America ruled over by Obama. And of course, Harris could then have been, also in line for a re-election in, in 28. So, it could have been, 20 out of 24 years will be America under Obama. So it could well be that this will be finally the country would be rid of this poisonous creature Obama. The DJ says Harris will be relegated to being a cackling, offensive ringtone. And Cynthia says the media coverage is so skewed that if Trump wins, their headlines will read Trump beats another woman. Okay, that's good. That's good. Trump beats another woman. Yes, I think so. There's something along the lines. But there'll also be this weeping. There's going to be this weeping and wailing. Just as there was in 2016. You remember there was crying. There was that woman on ABC News. I always forget her name. I mean, I can see her face, but I always forget her name. Really ugly woman. She works at ABC News. She's the one who got into that whole thing with J.D. Vance about, it's only just a handful of buildings that these Venezuelan gangs have taken over. But anyway, she started crying on election night in 2016, and yeah, so there'll be a lot of that. And I think if Harris does win the popular vote, I don't know where she will, but it's a possibility she'll win it. But I mean, by a small margin, she could win it. There's going to be the usual moaning and groaning that the electoral college is so undemocratic, we've got to get rid of it, and so on. So that there will be that. But I think that there's going to be weeping. But as I say, the most likely outcome, if he is declared the winner, will be massive riots throughout the country. And the media covering these riots very sympathetically, mostly peaceful. They were mostly peaceful. Martha somebody. Yeah, that Robert says Martha somebody. Yeah, Martha Raddatz. Now that's it, Martha Raddatz. Yeah, when you said Martha somebody, Martha Raddatz is her name. Raymond says back to the 1950s, preferably. Yeah, I think so. I think that if you think of a kind of the America of the 1950s, which is a very, very, very admirable place. I mean, it was just almost unbelievable when you see pictures of that America. You think, God, whatever happened to it? And then Mitchum 22 says after 2020, January the 6th, 2 impeachments, half a dozen court cases, 2 assassination attempts, the entire mainstream media against them, and being way outspent by Harris. Greatest political comeback ever. I think so. I think this is this would be the greatest. I mean, you think about Richard Nixon, who came back in '68, and that was a great comeback. But this would put Nixon's comeback in the shade, because Nixon never had to go through everything that Trump went through. So, but anyway, let's take a look if there's anything going on at either CNN or Fox that's of any interest. Okay.
To Northern Virginia, suburbanites, there's not a great Trump vote in that near DC.
So Virginia is quite close.
Counties.
I mean, I think she's going to pull it out, but it's obviously
where that vote is outstanding and whether it changes the dynamic.
No question. And Glenn Youngkin has been a great partner to Donald Trump this whole time on the campaign trail. He told me personally when I asked him, do you think it's really competitive a couple months ago? He said, I think you're going to force Biden-Harris, now Harris, to spend some time and money there. And that's happened. But it was ground zero for the parents' rights movement, the school stuff in 2021. I wanted to say something. Kamala Harris's team was smart and strategic to go for the 3 states in the blue wall. Since they've gone Democrat from 1992 to 2020, 28 straight years with the exception of 2016, they went for Trump. They've always voted as a bloc, but they also ran out of choices. I would have thought she'd do better in those more racially diverse Sunbelt states like Georgia, Arizona, Nevada, and even North Carolina. She's in the very white states trying to become president of the United States. Here's the problem I see for Harris and the Democrats right now. Demography is not destiny. That's what I think of this electorate. We think we're only going to get women by talking about abortion. We're going to get Hispanics if we talk about immigration. That's how Trump is getting it. We're going to get African Americans if we talk about this. Whose big idea was it to over-prosecute Donald Trump with all these cases? You think a lot of black men in this country didn't stand up and say, I think the system has been against me. I think that's unfair, to say nothing of the fact that they want economic upward mobility like everyone else. They're school choice voters. They think that people coming over the border are taking their jobs. And you got Barack Obama telling them, you're not right. Stop telling us who we are, what we think, how to eat, how to vote. This is the election where people are turning on its head. Last point, young voters. I think Harris is going to underperform Joe Biden nationwide on young voters. There too. Let's get rid of the old guy and put in the 60-year-old woman and then call Donald Trump old. That's how we'll get young people. It's not how you get young people. You get young people if they think they can afford a house before they're 52 under your policies. You get young people if they think they want to be president of their own small business, not president of this country one day, and they can survive and thrive doing that. So this whole demography thing that we should vote according to our gender, our race, our age, this is the election where I think that hit a wall.
Can I ask a quick question just to Mark and Kelly? If things hold right now where we are, who does she only have to win the blue wall, just for the sake of the audience, to win this? So if everything happens, she wins Arizona, he wins Nevada, he wins Georgia, North Carolina. If she wins Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, does she win?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So the blue wall remains what we have.
She has
focus on.
one big path. Yeah, he's got two paths, but you got to get one of those.
Is that true, Bill?
Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah.
Because it gets her to 270 with the 3.
Yeah,
Right.
with the 3 plus Nebraska too. I think it's too early to start filling this thing in here. I want to start it just yet, but I don't know. We're kind of warming up the fryer or whatever you say when you get.
But just show how it happens. Just show the 3.
Yeah, for her it would be Nebraska 2. Well, we got to go a long way. So just it's going to take me a while to get there. Okay. So she would have to win all the usual states here. It's just too many to fill in, right?
Oh, gotcha.
Boom, 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 boom.
Yeah, that's good.
Oh my gosh, what am I missing? Holy cow. Okay. Maine,
Nebraska,
Hawaii.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So that's why I didn't want to do it just yet, because we got to go a ways. But, maybe like another half hour, an hour or so, we'll fill in a few more. If you got time, I'll take you to Arizona, unless you got something else to do. Let me go ahead and reset this, because there's some movement here. There's some movement here in the American Southwest. This is Arizona. First time we're looking at it on the night. And Trump has just taken a 1/10 of a point lead. Kamala Harris had the edge here for really the past hour. This is Maricopa. This is Phoenix. This is where you get 60% of the vote statewide is in Maricopa County. All right. She has an edge of 2.2 percentage points. Raw vote 563,000. I'm going to bring out the slide again, okay, and go back to 2020. And this is Joe Biden in Arizona. So she's up about half a point, not quite. All right. But Donald Trump's performing a little better right now at this point, but there's still just about half of the vote out and too soon to call there in Arizona. Let me come back to modern day 2024 and see if this has changed. It has not. This raw vote's 2,200. So we'll watch that. Just wanted to take a sneak peek at that. You guys mentioned Iowa, the state that shall not be named, or the poll that shall not be named. This is nuts. 14.5 points.
Wow.
Yeah, that's not even.
Somebody's not having a good night.
Guys, there's a ton of votes still out there too. This thing could go higher. Anyway, back to you
It's
guys.
a little outside the margin of error. Okay.
All right, let's go over to Sandra and get a look, because we've been talking about young voters, and you have some new stuff from our Fox News voter analysis,
Sure.
Sandra.
I'll build off of what Kellyanne just said about the Hispanic voters in just a second. I'll dive into age first for you, Martha. And it is pretty incredible, some of the data that we're seeing in our Fox News voter analysis. This age group 65 and over, okay, it is a dead heat, split the vote there. But just note, Donald Trump led this group by 3 points in 2020. So he is, in fact, slightly underperforming with that group. But here is a huge story that we are seeing develop. Voters under age 30, 52% of the vote going to Harris, 44% to Trump. That's an 8-point margin that she's leading by. Biden led with this group by 25 points. Kellyanne was just talking about this a moment ago. He led by 25 points with this age group back in 2020. She is significantly underperforming with the younger voters right now. Want to jump back in and also talk about the Hispanic vote and what we are seeing there. This also telling a huge story of the night. Kamala Harris getting 56% of the support there. Donald Trump, 40. Okay, so she's leading by 16 points. Biden led with this group by 21. Again, she's underperforming there. I want to break that down by gender when it comes to the Hispanic vote, because this also telling a story. Hispanic women, for example. Okay, Harris is leading by 24 points with this group right now. Biden led with this group by 34 Hispanic women, underperforming there. Comes with Hispanic men. Look at this story. Harris is up by 6 points with Hispanic men. Biden led with 19 points. So there is really some interesting stories developing with the younger voters and the Hispanic vote out there. Brett and Martha, as you know, we have heard it on the ground. A lot of those American Hispanic voters, they don't like what they're seeing with illegal immigration in this country. They've been speaking about that. We are seeing that show up in our analysis.
Sandra, thank you.
Yeah.
Interesting stuff, especially that Hispanic vote.
And that gap, that 20+ gap that we're seeing, we've been seeing it for a long time. We've been talking about it for a long time. It has shown up in polls that she was underperforming Biden by more than 20 points with Hispanic voters, Brett. It's a very seismic change.
Which means that if it comes down, as we now I think have agreed at this desk, that it does to those 3 blue wall states being her chance of victory, are in very narrow path, that if these numbers are meaningful about how she will perform broadly speaking, and I think they're big enough now that we can say they are, her chances of pulling this off would be the biggest thing we've ever seen. I mean, amazing come from behind victory, and I think the odds on that are very long indeed.
Yeah, I mean,
well, it's a significant, to say the least, point that Kellyanne was making, which is that it all stops, right? And I think that I don't even know if in 2028 we'll still be talking about the Hispanic vote, right? Because with every immigrant group that comes through,
So, well, that was quite interesting, but it's still we have the thing, the 3 blue wall states, and it's clearly it's gonna be, it's not impossible, but it is a tall order for her to pull off. So let's see, got anything else here? Hucklebearer says, "Go, George, you're a streaming trooper." Thank you so much. God bless you. I appreciate that. Barry says Zelensky must be nervous right now. No, I'm sure a lot of European leaders are quite nervous. I mean, not obviously Viktor Orban or Robert Fico, but the rest. Macron cannot be looking happy. Um, 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 and William Taylor says RFK used neocon as a derogatory term tonight when talking with Tucker. No, I would imagine. Steve Brown says we're going to win in 2024. I guess yeah. Cynthia says RIP identity politics 2012 to 2024. Why 2012? I mean, I would have thought, 2008, ever since Obama emerged on the scene. So, I mean, it's been, Obama has dominated the scene in America. And I think he doesn't like it. He doesn't like being eclipsed. And then Steve Brown says Democrats outspent Republicans, by almost double. Yeah, that's right. And she raised an enormous amount of money. That itself is just staggering. Of this person who was, just inserted into that slot, and suddenly she just raised staggering amounts of money. A couple of billion. And Robert says New York Times is now at 83% Trump. Aristotle, all the pandering to minorities is ridiculous. Yeah. DJ, countdown to crying towels. Yeah, the crying. Yeah. Steve Brown said, is Georgia being called for Trump? Okay. And now Aristotle says they're claiming that Russia is interfering by phoning in bomb threats to Georgia. They never give up. Yeah, that's right. That's a Georgia. Then we've also got those machines, looking at, count. They're going to recount some of those ballots in Wisconsin. We'll see what that does. And then Steve Brown says, yes, we have been inundated with squirrels here in Oregon. And I'm sure the Russians were behind it, and doing without bad weather. Yeah, I think so. And then William Taylor says they don't even care enough to create high quality bullshit anymore. All right, let's see if there's anything on, see if CNN has anything interesting. Where are we? Well, that doesn't. Battlegrounds are too early to call. This is fun. Nope. All right, let's go back to see if there's anything on Let's go see if there's anything on the Fox News. I have a thing about this Kellyanne Conway. I can't stand her, to be honest. And she's shills for Ukraine.
And as we get ready for the top of the hour, we'll make some.
You guys, wow, time is going so fast. There we go.
It is now 11 p.m. in New York, and 4 West Coast states have just finished voting. The Fox News decision desk can project that Vice President Harris will win California, the Golden State, 54 electoral votes, biggest prize, more than any other state in the country.
And Fox News can also project that Harris will win Oregon, adding 8 more votes to her electoral college vote. Harris will also win Washington, another reliably Democratic northwestern state.
But the former president will win Idaho's 4 electoral votes. So as we see the race to 270, it's now 216 to 193. Race is changing quickly. I am getting some word from the Democrats who have now put out kind of a sense of the race, saying that in Pennsylvania, they say they're overperforming turnout expectations in Philadelphia and the early vote expectations in Bucks County. They go into state by state of where they feel like they are going to see more votes in these states. These are the blue wall states, because that is the path that we're looking at. In Wisconsin, they say, we know there's significant amount of vote remaining in Dane and Milwaukee counties, and we are seeing signs of strong performance in the WOW counties. We just have partial data. We don't expect complete results from Wisconsin until tomorrow morning between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. We shall see.
We shall see. California Senate race, as we talked about, can project that the current Democratic Congressman Adam Schiff will win his race against former Major League Baseball player Steve Garvey in that Senate race. And Washington's incumbent Democratic Senator Maria Cantwell will win her 5th term. Not big surprises on that front this evening either. So here's the balance of power in the Senate: 49 for Republicans. The majority is 51. They have flipped 1 seat, 42 for the Democrats, as we wait for a number of these big Senate races to be called. Ohio, Montana, Pennsylvania, all will really dictate the future of the Senate.
And Michigan. Let's bring in our panel: Britt Hume, Dana Perino, Harold Ford Jr. They've been here for a while. Kevin O'Leary, Jessica Tarloff, and Ben Domenech. Jessica, are you surprised?
Surprised is a very generous term for how I'm feeling in this particular moment. It is in Democrats' nature to be anxious, and we are certainly at peak anxiousness. I think the conversation that you were having in the last panel about the Latino vote is really interesting. Some of these numbers are a little bit jaw-dropping, looking at, potentially 45% for Donald Trump in some states. And that is going to cause a real reckoning within the party on how we talk about, message to, and integrate, a huge part of our base typically in all of this. I would say, though, that the campaign and people that I've been speaking to have said nothing has been called. Our paths to 270 have not been blocked off. And as we continue to get more vote in, and I should add to the numbers that they messaged to you, Detroit is coming in. And Detroit had a very good day with in-person voting today. And the suburbs of Atlanta outperforming where Biden was there. One point of concern is that she's not doing as well in the rural areas as Biden did. And that's something that they're paying attention to. But I'm hearing more and more from people that I'm speaking to, blue wall. And this morning we were talking about, well, if you pick up North Carolina and Georgia, again, they're not off the map, but it is feeling like more of that laser focus on the easiest route.
Ben, welcome, first of all. Good to see you tonight. I'm sitting here thinking about the rethink that Republicans went through after Mitt Romney lost. Mm-hmm. And they did this huge analysis of what was going wrong with the Republican Party and why they weren't reaching Hispanic voters, why they couldn't reach working class voters, why they weren't bringing in more women. And it really is stunning when you think about that. That was Mitt Romney's loss. Mm-hmm. And it appears that the person who has changed that calculus dramatically is Donald Trump.
Well, they called it an autopsy at the time, and I think it's turned out to be an autopsy for a party that was dead. And I think that Donald Trump has done something incredible in resurrecting it with a new coalition that, a lot of people never thought Republicans were going to be able to reach, that they weren't going to be able to cut through a lot of these different fundamental problems that people thought were there in order to reach these different sets of the electorate. And look, I think the big question they have to be asking is how much of that is tied to Donald Trump himself and how much of it is something that the Republican Party going forward can build on. And, regardless of whatever ends up happening here tonight and tomorrow morning, in terms of these blue wall states and the things that we take away from it, certainly we can take away. This is the most incredible political comeback that we've seen since 1968. It's the most incredible remaking of the Republican coalition that we've seen in a way that was really unexpected by all but a handful of people. And how they build on that, how they choose to prioritize policies going forward, could make a big difference in whether they're able to hold on to it in the future or whether it's something that goes away if Donald Trump isn't at the top of the ticket.
Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Wonderful. The markets now have it at 92.5% for Donald Trump winning this election to Kamala Harris at 7.0%. You're a market guy. How do you read this?
I'm going to stay on this theme for a moment and call this perhaps the greatest night the Democratic Party can ever have if they lose. And let me explain that. I was very troubled just over 100 days ago when they circumvented the democratic process and anointed somebody. The analogy is easy to a Super Bowl. You arrive at the Super Bowl game, and by any measure, this is the Super Bowl of global politics, the presidential race. Your quarterback, Biden, is injured. He's taken out of the game. You don't bring a quarterback in that's never, ever, ever won any game anywhere. You run a process. And they missed that opportunity. This is a chance for them to, I'm not saying they're going to lose, but I'm going to those percentages and saying they get to reboot. They get to go back to the center. They get to scratch this whole thing. And the influences of a Schumer or a Pelosi or a movie star or an Obama deciding to anoint somebody, those guys are gone in 4 years. They won't have that kind of influence. This could be great for America because I'm an investor. I have to work with who's ever in the White House in January. But I care about policy. And when I hear policies coming out of a party that are so twisted against the American way of life, like basically taxing capital gains that are unreal.
Let's see. Yeah, the boy says what I said. Kellyanne is a lobbyist for Ukraine. That's exactly what she is. She's a lobbyist for Ukraine. And Cynthia says, did anyone see that Dr. Jill wore a MAGA red outfit to vote? Talk about in your face. Yeah, I didn't notice that. I mean, Kellyanne Conway, I mean, she's so money grubbing. I mean, everything about her is so utterly money. I mean, she's a Fox News contributor, so she gets paid as a contributor, but she also uses that gig as a Fox News contributor in order to rustle up clients for her political consultancy business. So she's essentially, using that thing, which they could pay her for her expert opinions, but basically she's a political consultant, and she's out hunting down clients for her consultancy business. So it's an obvious conflict of interest, and then she's a lobbyist for Ukraine. This is a totally disgusting person. Now, William Taylor says about the Dr. Jill saw it. No way was that a coincidence. She was making a statement. Yeah, I think that's probably true. I think Biden is probably extremely pissed off with the way he was treated. Steve Brown, CNN is owned by Warner Brothers. John Hendricks, who founded the Discovery Network, is one of the wealthiest in the world and reportedly is a mega neocon along the lines of Bernard Marcus, who just died. Yeah. Cynthia says, I thought about making 2008 as the starting year of identity politics, but I don't believe that particular term was actually invented until about 2012. Well, I mean, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think that, that, I mean, look, identity politics has been around for a while. But I mean, you're probably right. I mean, that the use of the term. I mean, if you just go back to 2008, you could think that Obama actually ran not as an identity politics practitioner. He would transcended race. He was a new kind of black politician in America. He wasn't so in a way he was he was somebody who could appeal to both blacks and whites, and that was his selling point. Unlike previous black politicians, like Jesse Jackson, who was never really able to make an appeal to anyone outside the blacks. Obama was thought to be someone who could, he's not primarily black. He can just simply transcend these categories. As it turned out, Obama was a con man. He fooled people as to who he really was. So Timothy, Trump's got Georgia and North Carolina. Yeah, I mean, I think that the question now is going to be this blue wall. He has to pick off one of them, and I guess I'm still a little nervous. Being I'm an incorrigible pessimist, so I'm kind of nervous that she might be able to hold on to that blue wall. I don't know. I mean, but that's where it's. I mean, and it was always that. I mean, I think it was, going in tonight. I mean, I kind of assumed that Trump would carry the Sun Belt states, all of them, Arizona, North Carolina, and Georgia. I thought he would do that, but then it was always going to be, he just needed to pick off one of those blue wall states. And I don't know. I mean, he could do it. He could pick off all three, but it's still a tall order. I mean, he did it in 2016, but didn't do it in 2020, and so we just don't know. Golan Heights says blue wall looks red. And then NYT has all but called it. All but called what? Election results: Pennsylvania, Trump 51%, Harris 47.9, AP is 70% reporting. Yeah. Well, it's still, I mean, yeah, it's still 70% report. So it's still you need another. I mean, the key is obviously Philadelphia. That's where if she's going to pull it off in Pennsylvania, it's going to be in Philly. All right, let's take a look if there's anything more on Fox News other than Brit Hume pompously talking.
Even though it has been basically a red state for quite some time, and sometimes the migration of this kind of party move in a state takes a little while.
That Sherrod Brown, there were a lot of Democrats who thought like you thought at the way you posited the question, that he's held on for a long time, he's running tough races, and that he had appealed to enough Republicans over the many years. But Moreno was a great candidate for them. He hung in there, and what it goes to show also is this, energy security.
That's it. So the Republicans
it's going to be interesting to see how this continues to play out in Pennsylvania this evening. Ohio and Pennsylvania,
so
and even
Republicans
Montana, where energy is a
have the
big
majority
issue.
in the
These three Democrats may run up
Don't
against
you
a
think
challenge
that
that they
this,
can't
this
overcome.
shows you a little bit of break in the blue wall? If Ohio's 10 points and Bernie Moreno takes off Sherrod Brown, don't you, as you're looking at Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, say there are similar issues in these states?
That's what I'm saying. No, I don't, Brett. The answer is a resounding, unfortunate for me. Yes, I think you can begin to see that where that crack could come, if not a whole collapse.
Let me make one last point. $161 million spent on the Bernie Moreno race by the Senate Leadership Fund. McConnell's basically the pact to keep the Senate majority. $161 million.
And in part, that's because they understand if we have one more of these things flip, think about what that does to the Supreme Court and the decisions that will be made by some of the justices
And
there.
we're, one seat away from the majority for the Republicans, and Republicans have been counting as if it were a done deal all along on Montana Senate, where there's very little vote in, which I think is the reason it's too early to call. Not too close to call, because at this hour, Bill, according to what you just showed me on that map over there, that wonderful map of yours, John Tester's the Democrat John Tester, Democratic incumbent, is well behind with only 6% in.
Yeah,
but he's,
seems like
he's down,
just getting going a little bit there, right?
Yeah, 14 points. But I mean, that's in line with what has been the expectation.
But listen, if you look at Ohio, it's a similar issues to Mike Rogers in Michigan. And there's similar issues in Pennsylvania for Dave McCormick. We're going to take a quick break right here. The race to 270 slowly taking shape. 270 is the electoral votes needed to win. The vote count changing by the minute. Check out that popular vote. Check out the popular vote. Our special coverage continues after this.
Election night.
Yeah. So yeah, Sherrod Brown. It's funny because I always thought that Sherrod Brown is kind of a potential, a potential presidential candidate of the future. He had a certain populist streak. He had kind of an old-fashioned kind of Democrat, pro-labor and so on. So I always thought that Sherrod Brown would be would be someone to to consider for the future. But that's it. He's gone. So I don't even know what they're talking about. I think the Republicans have the Senate. I mean, Sherrod Brown won. They won in West Virginia. That's it. They only needed to flip 2 to get to the majority. It's not dependent on what happens in Montana. I mean, so I don't know what on earth they were going on, but that's it. Republicans have the majority in the Senate. And then the boy says, George, I'm from Philly. Corruption and Philly cheesesteaks go hand in hand. Smedley Butler called it a cesspool of corruption in the 1920s. Yes. Yeah, no, that's right. It is. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I kind of wonder at what point we'll have a clearer idea as to when we'll know about the blue wall, whether she'll hold the blue wall. I mean, at the moment, Trump is doing reasonably well. Let me just see. Maybe we can do something in the CNN. Okay, this isn't it. Want to see if we can get something from CNN. Let's see. All right, let's see if we can get something from CNN now.
There she's competing, not so bad. There. So you're just looking for the pieces as you come through. Carbon County, 65 for Trump. In 4 years ago, 72% for Trump now. That's white workers, blue-collar workers, high school educated workers. Want to check back in here. Lehigh County, Vice President getting 52%. There's a little bit out here. Again, you're looking for population centers now. This is the 10th largest of the 67 counties. If you're the Harris campaign, you're looking at population centers trying to say what's left in the places where there are a lot of people, modest amount of people in Lehigh Valley, but you see it right there at 52. Just want to come back. Joe Biden's at 53. You see the pattern that continues, right? You know, I was saying Donald Trump has to improve his standing a point or two in the suburbs. She has to match Joe Biden in these close battleground states. And in a place that matter, blue-collar Pennsylvania, you don't see it right now. Some votes still to be counted. Maybe she makes it up. But so then the other point is, if you're losing places, can you make it up, right? If you're losing in one piece of the state, can you make it up somewhere else? Look at Delaware County. She's getting 60% of the vote, right? So it's only 70% counted. She's getting 60. Biden got 63, even in Delaware County, which is strongly Democratic. That was my last stop on the all over the map tour there. Again, there's time, right? There's 70% of the vote to come. But look at this, right? If you've got 70%, the most you're going to make up, if the percentages stay the same, you're going to make up somewhere in the ballpark of 15 or 20,000 votes, right? That's great. You're making up 15, 20,000 votes. His lead is 178,000 votes. So you're looking for places where you can make up a ton, which is why, to circle back to your hometown, what Kate Baldwin just told us is absolutely essential. It was Saturday morning in 2020 when that last installment from Philadelphia came in. The next installment will not be the last installment from Philadelphia, but she said tens and tens of thousands of votes, right? The Vice President of the United States is getting 77% of the vote right now in Philadelphia. They're approaching 70% reporting. All right, you come back in time, the President of the United States was getting over 81% in Philadelphia. Again, this is your biggest basket of votes. The Democratic coalition, this is the foundation. There's no house for Democrats without the foundation of Philadelphia. At the moment, she is underperforming the President of the United States, and she has to make up 178,000 votes. The math there is pretty clear. It's not mission impossible, but the more you get deeper into the count, the question is, after this next big batch of votes from Philadelphia, does it become mission improbable? I think is what you're looking for as we wait for more votes in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And again, Trump wins Pennsylvania, the map gets near impossible. Not impossible, but near impossible.
There have been stories written a week or two ago about Democrats in Philadelphia sounding the alarm and basically using the press to send the message to the Harris campaign that they didn't think that the Harris campaign was listening to Philadelphia Democrats enough about the need to improve the margins. And just, Donald Trump lost Pennsylvania in 2020, but he improved his vote count in Philly from 2016 to 2020. And it looks like he's doing that again tonight, even while improving his margins in the collar counties, as opposed to what happened 4 years ago.
Well, we don't have the raw numbers yet, obviously, because we're at 70%, but he's at 22 if you round that up, 117,000 votes. Let's just go back and look. He's certainly on track to. If he keeps the percentage he's at now, right? He's at 18% there, and he had 132,000 votes. he's at 117,000 votes, and we still got 30% of commit. So you're sure looks like he's overperforming 2020. We're not done yet, but it sure looks like that. And then so the analysis afterwards will be, who is it? Is it black voters in Philadelphia? There are some suburban areas outside of Philadelphia there. There's some affluent white voters there as well. But that will be the analysis afterwards. The thing that strikes me is we're going through these states. The thing you heard in the last week from the Harris people is that we're on the ground. Our labor allies are on the ground. Our progressive groups are on the ground. Our LGBTQ groups are on the ground. We're knocking on doors, and we don't see the Trump people anywhere. Right? Trump did sort of contract out his get out the vote. I was in 7 or 8 of these battleground states in the last couple of weeks. We didn't see many Trump people out there at all, just doing phone banks. But what happened in 2016 is Trump support was organic. It was organic. And so, the Trump campaign says, texts and phone calls work to turn out voters. Democrats think it's knocking on the doors. If this map holds up, that's going to be a big conversation about motivating and turning out voters in this technology age. What works best? What kind of contact works best? Or, the vice president's campaign, well, they say she only had 110 days. She didn't have enough time to introduce herself. Or, that part, we're not done yet. But that's what's going to happen. If that happens, is who the finger pointing in the Democratic Party. We're not there yet. But as you watch this map fill in, another thing that is distinctive at the moment, we're not done yet. In 2 presidential elections, Donald Trump has lost the popular vote both times. At the moment, he's 5.1 million votes ahead. We're just starting to count in our most populous state. So there's a long way to go, and that could change. But that would be a trophy if Donald Trump wins this election. That would be a trophy he would very much like to claim after losing the popular vote in 2 elections in a row.
And you also know there are people in the senior echelons of the Trump campaign who say that they still do direct mail because there's seniors, you can't reach seniors through texting and emails. That the way to reach them is with direct mail, which a lot of people in politics today laugh off. But guess who votes more than young people? Seniors. Sarah Seidner. Let's go to Wisconsin if you can, because I want to bring in Sarah Seidner, who's at a vote counting center in Milwaukee right now with 66% of the vote in. Donald Trump is in the lead there with 50.6% in Wisconsin in general. Kamala Harris with 47.8%. Donald Trump right now in the lead by almost 60,000 votes. Sarah, you have officials with you who can tell us about the outstanding vote in Wisconsin. Still about a third of the state's vote is outstanding. What can you tell us?
Yeah, we just heard a big cheer go up here in Milwaukee at the central count, as they call it, because all the wards have finally reported. So they are counting these ballots as fast as they can. They do believe that they're going to be able to give some kind of idea of this count after midnight. It will not take the extra 2 or 3 hours they thought it might because of that problem with what happened with the tabulators, which, by the way, are right behind me, one of them. All 13 of them, there was an issue. A door was not locked. And so they, out of an abundance of caution, decided that they were going to rerun through the absentee ballots, 30,000 of them, but they've been able to do that. And now they're about 80,000 of 325,000 that have already been processed. All right, with me now, we have Patricia Ruiz-Cantu and Douglas Haig, Republican, Democrat. Both of them are on the Milwaukee Election Commission. First of all, how are things going? And do you think we're going to find out something soon?
We will. I think things are going really well, even though we had a little hiccup. But, as we united, all the workers and the parties, I think that it's extremely important that we were in the same page and that we had an agreement and everything is going well.
What did you make of this? I know Ron Johnson came out, a Republican, and was very, upset with all of this and was sort of making hay about it. What were your thoughts on what happened with these machines?
Well, there was a human error in part of it. So when it was caught, we just simply did a rerun on the with the processing and the tabulators, and even probably some of the tabulators should have seen it, but it was caught by one of the observers who brought it to the executive director's attention, and it was acted upon immediately. We took care of it, and yes, we anticipated a much further delay than we are, but I think we're right on schedule where we anticipate to be earlier. And true, if you can see around and look at the poll workers at work, we both have Democrats and Republicans working side by side, and many of them have been doing this for many years, and they've become very efficient about it, and they're with their integrity from each group. So I think we're going to be getting those numbers fairly soon. I don't want to say as early as we would like, but I think it's going to be earlier than what we thought before we had the hiccup, so to speak.
Just to both of you, what do you think of this, the number of voters? Are you seeing the numbers larger than in 2020? And what are you seeing now?
I'm not seeing as large as I thought before. But I was doing, most of us were going out to the polls earlier too. The polls were a steady, nice flow. What I did see is a high volume of same-day registrations. That was seen to be a much more increase at all the polling sites, and not just one geographical area, whether it be whatever demographics, but it was all over that was encompassed. And I talked to each chief inspector, and that is the area that I saw a much increase in the participation of same-day registration.
Same-day registration. We saw that also in Cedarburg today. A lot of people coming and registering and voting. Thank you both so much. We should just make very clear, you heard it here from a Republican and a Democrat who are election commissioners, that there was an agreement. This is going to be a free and fair election here in Milwaukee. People are watching every single bit of this and agreeing that things are going as smoothly as possible after that hiccup earlier today.
All right, Sarah Seidner in Milwaukee, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Let's take a look at Milwaukee and Wisconsin at large. Donald Trump in the lead with 66% of the vote in the state in general. Tell me about the WOW counties, if you could.
So you're right around Milwaukee or the WOWs. Let me get to it in just a second. I just want to interesting. Number one, we've learned about Senator Johnson in recent years. He likes to put out press releases before he knows what the facts are. Sorry, it just happens to be true, especially about voting integrity. That's how it's supposed to work. A Democrat and a Republican standing side by side, Democrats and Republicans throughout the room, they're fine. They're doing what they're supposed to do. They had a human error. We're all human, and they're fixing it. Right? That's how it works. Sometimes it means you wait a little while, but you have people in the room, eyeballs, both parties, eyeballs on everything. Yep. Everything's going to be fine. But the point Mr. Hague made at the end is instructive to me in the sense that if you come to here, you're down, you're the vice president, you're losing by just shy of 60,000 votes. This is the number one county. It is 17%, 17% of the state population. You're getting 66%. So you say, okay, there's still 40% of the vote to come in. But Mr. Hague just made a point. He said anything turnout was great. Well, let's see what these final numbers are, because if you look at that number right there, you look at 176,000, right? When Joe Biden carried Wisconsin 4 years ago, it's at 317,000, and it's 69% of the vote, right? So 317,000 and 69% of the vote. She's at 66% of the vote, and the raw math, right? You need the higher percentage, but you need that raw math to overcome what is happening in all this red, right? Especially, one more check and I'll get you to your wows. Dane County is 95% in, right? This is Madison. This is University of Wisconsin. Young voters, college area, tends to be more liberal. 74% for her, 242,000. Again, Biden's number's higher and the math is higher. That's what happens in battle. That's how you win or lose battleground states.
Get out the vote and get out the vote and
in the right
with a
places,
higher percentage.
Right.
Yeah.
And so in a place where the state won by 20,000 votes, you saw the margin even just right there. So let's go to the wows. You're going to go to Waukesha County, was just here recently, right? This is a place the Harris campaign was hoping, hey, women, you don't have to tell your husband who you're going to vote for. If you believe in reproductive freedom in a conservative county, vote Harris. Just don't tell your husband about it. This is one of the places they thought the Dobbs decision, reproductive freedom, abortion rights, would help them kind of to the margins. Well, we're at 91%. We'll see. But 40% is her number. If you round that up, we'll go back in time. It's a tiny bit, but it's not a significant jump from where the president was 4 years ago. And Trump's at 60% if you round up then. He's at 59. So a little bit, maybe a tiny inroads there for her. So you're moving around up here. You go up to Washington County. This is a big 70% of the vote here for Trump. Let's just double check it and come back.
He improved.
Up a little bit. He improved a little bit. And then you come over here to the O. I did wow backwards for you there. I put the O at the end.
Yeah.
But you come over to Ozaki here, and the former president is at 55% of the vote in 2020, and he's at 56, roughly the same, but a little bit, So Trump is not underperforming. It's maybe within the margins, but when you see that well behind where President Biden was, and now you're waiting on this. I mean, there are some other small things. Let's take a look and see what else is out there. But as you can see, the biggest thing is here, and some of these votes up in here. If you're in the Trump campaign, we're talking about, can she come back? But if you're in the Trump campaign, you're also saying, do we have a cushion? Is there more coming in for us? And the answer is yes. The
Oh
answer-
yeah, they got all that Green Bay vote.
The
Look at
answer is
that.
yes when you look up there. So the next thing we learned from Milwaukee is how many votes, what is her percentage, how does it affect the statewide math, and then how much is left.
Yeah.
How much is left in your biggest area? You have to turn them out, because then again, I just want to come up here and look at this again. Brown County. This is Green Bay, blue collar workers. Trump's getting 61. The vice president's getting 37 or 38 if you want to round that up. That matters.
Oh my God,
matters.
He almost shot almost 10 points.
Right.
It's 9 points.
Right. In a battleground state, he's up and she's down. In a place where if you're the Harris campaign, the Biden campaign, you're not going to win here. You're not going to win here. But if you make it that race, if you make it that close, instead of that close,
yeah,
you get a better result. Period. It's simple math.
Let's go on to the third of the blue wall states, Michigan. Jim Sciutto is at a vote counting center in Detroit. And Jim, you have an update on the vote in Wayne County. Tell us.
Well, let me tell you, we've been in touch with the Secretary of State's office really every few minutes here, trying to figure out when we're going to get another batch of Detroit, of course, the surrounding Wayne County votes. And we're told very soon. They won't put a figure on very soon, but very soon. We know they're working hard, calculating those numbers, counting those votes, and that there have been no issues. They're not encountering any issues with machines, et cetera. This is just a process of getting the work done. We've also been in touch with Macomb County, where we were outside of Detroit earlier today. They are also expecting, they say, another batch of votes to be reported quite soon. And here where we are in Detroit, this is the location where they've been counting the absentee ballots. Just in the last hour, another 2,500 or so absentee ballots came in. That brings us pretty much to the end of the 100,000 that they've expected. At some point in the next hour, we'll see another U-Haul truck come in with the remaining absentee ballots that they've collected from drop boxes around the city here. And they've been counting as they've been going. Remember, because they started counting last Monday, they didn't have to wait till Election Day. So those numbers will be done soon. I will say the Secretary of State told me earlier this evening that she's moving up her expectation that by midday tomorrow, they could report final unofficial results, saying she believes they might be able to do that tonight, perhaps after midnight in the next couple of hours. But of course, they'll have to get those Wayne County numbers done first. And I should note, the Secretary of State just walked in here to monitor the counting of those absentee ballots, as she's been doing at precincts around the state.
All right, Jim Sciutto, thank you so much. Jim Sciutto in Detroit. I mean, John, it's 2024. They only have 16% reported in Wayne County, home of Detroit.
One of the things you look for in life are consistency.
Death taxes, Wayne County comes to life.
Wayne County, Gary, Indiana. Yeah, they're consistent. This is my 10th presidential election, and it's the 10th time you've been counting late in the night, and you're saying, hello, Detroit, hello.
Yeah.
It's the way it is. But, you see the Secretary of State's there, Jim is there. Again, that's nothing nefarious. It's just inefficiency, to your point about we live in the technological age. And Jim just said, they changed the law in Michigan so you could count some of the early votes, beforehand, and then release them after the polls close. So it adds to the why. But right now, let's focus on the what, which is an 86,000 vote, almost 87,000 vote lead for the former president, again, in one of the states he flipped in. I just want to pull that out to make sure I'm right. Yes, he's leading in all three of them now.
Oh, wait. That changed while we were talking.
Changed while we were talking.
She was ahead in Michigan, and now she is no longer ahead. Now Donald Trump is in the lead. Right now, not all the votes are counted, but right now he's leading in all three blue wall states.
Plus North Carolina, plus Georgia, plus Arizona, plus Nevada. We're not done with the count.
But this is right now the map of 2016.
That is the map of 2016, and that is the 5-alarm fire inside the Harris campaign to get on the phone. Again, we're not done, and we lived through 2020. And I want to say it again, slowly and clearly. 2020, this time of night, and there were states that changed, and they were largely, Pennsylvania changed. Trump was ahead in Georgia. Things have changed. There's not as many mail ballots out there as in 2020, so I would not expect as dramatic a swing. The question then becomes, go state by state, county by county, is the math there? And, I'm trying to be fair and trying to be, it's possible. When you're leading in all of them and you're Trump, that's what you're sitting in the headquarters. So maybe they're not going to win them all, right? Maybe they're not going to win them all, but they're leading in all of them right now. And so let's just look at what happened here and come on in. Number one, it's the smaller rural counties. When they fill in, when they fill in, again, it's, you say, oh, that's not a lot of votes. Well, that's a lot of votes. Well, you have it there, and then you have it here, and then you have it again here. You're getting 500, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 in all these little counties. 120 votes there. That's only 5% reporting. You say, oh, that's not much. It's a lot when you think you're going through a state and you have all these counties. And then the question is, so what are the Democratic margins, right? You've got 83 counties in the state of Michigan. So 56%, we're about halfway through in Kent County. It's the Grand Rapids suburbs, and she's running a little bit ahead of the president there. But Jake, the big question in Michigan is, when do those Wayne County votes come in, and what do they do to the statewide total?
All right, John. Well, CNN has a major projection. CNN projects that Donald Trump will win the state of North Carolina. This is the first of 7 battleground states that we're keeping an eye on, and we are calling it for Donald Trump. What does that mean for the electoral count? Donald Trump now has 227 electoral votes. Kamala Harris has 153. 270 are needed to win. Let's go to Trump HQ in West Palm Beach, Florida, where we find Caitlin Collins. And Caitlin, CNN is now calling North Carolina for Donald Trump. This is the first of 7 battleground states that the campaign is watching with eagle eyes.
Yeah, Jake, remember when I told you a few hours ago that it was going to be seen as a gut check for the Trump campaign? Listen here, it's a bit of a delay, but your call is playing right now over the loudspeakers in the room, Jake. You can hear the party here, the partygoers gathered at the convention center here in West Palm Beach cheering as your call is coming on the screen. They have been glued to CNN for the last several moments, watching John King at the map, going over each of these numbers. But North Carolina is an important benchmark for the Trump campaign because they were watching it to get a gut check for how they believed the rest of the evening could go. And I can tell you that what I'm hearing from Trump campaign sources is they are increasingly confident as the night is going on. Still not certain, of course, watching those very important blue wall states and to see what they look like. And so that is going to be the big question here as they continue to keep an eye on Pennsylvania, on Michigan, on Wisconsin, and as this is moving forward. Jake, I will tell you that we're seeing more people from the Mar-a-Lago party come over here to the Trump headquarters where this party is going to be held. But also, some Republicans are flying into Palm Beach. We just heard from House Speaker Mike Johnson, who was watching the results come in with his constituents back in Shreveport. He is now headed here tonight because he is predicting a bigger Republican margin in the House, a Republican takeover of the Senate, and he says he believes a Republican is going to win the White House, therefore Donald Trump, Jake. Obviously, still waiting to see, but a noticeable shift here in the mood at the Trump headquarters.
All right, Caitlin Collins in West Palm Beach at Trump HQ. Thank you so much. So, the first of the 7 battleground states to fall, CNN projecting North Carolina for Donald Trump.
This was the most probable pickup for Kamala Harris, if that was the world in which we were living. That is why Donald Trump went down there multiple times in the last 24, 48 hours of the campaign. And it clearly did not happen for Kamala Harris. And Trump, he's telling his people, I'm told, and just like we heard from Caitlin, that this is something that portends well for the future. We don't know what it means for the other states, but what we do know is it's even more evidence that blue wall is the path for Kamala Harris.
And that path is just more and more narrow, I think we're seeing as the night goes on. But also, so many people thought that perhaps this would be an election that in tenor and tone would be closer to the midterms, a big conversation about abortion. That is not where it's going. It seems like you're seeing that male turnout is starting to produce what the campaign wanted.
You know, I think a lot of us came into tonight wondering, was it going to feel more like 2016 or 2020? And 4 years ago, I was at Fox, and at almost exactly this moment, at 11:20 p.m., we made the very controversial call. They made the very controversial call of Arizona. And that changed the whole feeling. And that's one of the reasons the Trump campaign was so furious about that call, because it was the first flip and the first indication that maybe it was going to be different than 2016. Right now, and look, there's a lot of voting to count, and states to be called. But right at this moment, this does feel more like 2016 than 2020. No question about
It is interesting. And and the fact that we're calling it at this point is also significant, because I don't think North Carolina was called last time 4 years ago until maybe a week after the election, or it was certainly after Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania came on Saturday. I think North Carolina was Sunday or Monday. The fact that we are making this call now suggests that there's a bigger gap than there was last time. And Donald Trump won it last time by something like 75,000 votes.
Generally speaking, he is overperforming what he did in 2020, and she is underperforming what Joe Biden did in 2020, and that ends up what it was a narrow edge for Biden. Is at this point,
Let's see. Okay, so we're back here. So North Carolina, that was one of the big ones. I thought they would call Georgia before they called North Carolina, but Georgia they will almost certainly call. Let's just go back and see. Where are we? Stone River says late mail-in votes coming in. Oh, we'll see about that. Yeah. Steve Brown says either I am blocked by everyone or chat is not updating. Try clearing the cache several times. I don't know. I mean, you're up. I can see your messages. Let's see. Steve Brown says CNN always, and else you have to just laugh at them. Yes. Blue wall is crumbling. I mean, it's a good question. Is the blue wall crumbling? They're still holding out, but it's I mean, Trump at the moment is ahead in all three, but you never know. I mean, it's I mean, I kind of feel the same as everyone else. You know, waiting for the some votes coming in from somewhere. Tanaka says election alert with 79% reporting. Harris underperforms in the Chicago metro area, Cook County by 12% compared to Biden's. Yeah, but still the 25% black male vote. That's a real blow. That's very problematic because once you underperform like that among a key constituency, you have to make it up somehow, and she's not making it up with those the Swifties, the Taylor Swift fans. Anto B's, good morning, George from Ireland. Good morning. How are you? Election, Donaki says a New York Times election forecast project Trump wins the popular vote by 1% and wins 301 electoral votes. Huckleberry asks, does this brighten your day, George? It does brighten my day, despite the sun. Yeah, that's true. I mean, would have to say though that Trump could well disappoint. He did disappoint during his first term, and it's quite possible he'll disappoint again, and then we'll be back to where we started from. Talking about what an absolute shower Trump is. Bye Bye Holocaust Harris and Flush You Tampon Tim. Oh, that's nice. That's Besant Tiagi. Yeah, no, somebody's saying I'm gone silent. No, I was watching the CNN and seeing what they think. Let's see if we can take a look at what are they doing on Fox. What are they saying on Fox? Where are we? Yeah.
This is about 54 years of life. My only point is President Trump, it looks like it's time to heal and move forward. And I think he'll have to do something. I don't disagree with he's built this coalition, it looks like tonight, but it's going to take more than that. I'm one, as a Democrat, willing to work with him if he wants to do that, but it's going to take each side wanting to do it.
We're going to make a call here. Stand by.
Fox News projects that the Republicans will take control of the United
We knew that.
States
I don't know
Senate.
what,
The party will hold at
it's
least
obvious.
51 seats, which is enough for an outright majority.
The tipping point for this is Nebraska, where Fox News can now project that Republican incumbent Senator Deb Fischer will defeat independent challenger Dan Osborne. Now, this was a very, very tight race. The incumbent Republican pulling this out. And that means, because of Bernie Moreno and West Virginia, that it now goes over the top as far as the Senate majority. But we don't know the final number yet.
Right. We're still waiting for the Tim Sheehy race against John Tester in Montana, which is one that I think a lot of Republicans felt was something they were relying on. So we'll see if that turns out to be the case. And it's not clear yet who would serve as the next Senate Majority Leader. Republican leader Mitch McConnell, who is the longest serving Senate leader in history, announced earlier this year that he would step down. So there's a lot of speculation about who might take that role. And of course, that'll be the next conversation to have for the leadership in the Senate. But right now, a 51-seat majority for the Senate, 42 seats for Democrats. And this is a big deal for if President Trump wins again, he needs this majority in the Senate. We don't know what's going to happen in the House, if indeed.
Yeah, and we have seen some evidence that Democrats are having some success in the House. The question comes in the West and California. But this is a big deal, Britt Hume, that this is a flip of the Senate majority. And now Chuck Schumer will no longer be the majority leader. This is something that Republicans looked at their map at the beginning and said, this looks good for us. They didn't know how good, and we still don't know how good it's going to be tonight.
Yeah, and it raises the possibility that if Trump wins, he has the Senate, and the question becomes then, can the Republicans maintain control of the House? There's been a lot of confidence in the betting markets that they would throughout this evening, but just to keep you up to date, the margin to guess the margin on the betting odds has shrunk a little bit for their holding on there.
Holding on to all three.
If I could just add, like for Mitch McConnell, this is what a way to leave, right? With another win. Again, and if President Trump wins the presidency, another way to say he recruited great candidates this year. Steve Daines, who was a senator from Montana who ran the whole operation. The Senate Leadership Fund spent millions of dollars very strategically, and they had to help with $3 million at the last minute to help the senator of Nebraska get across the finish line. And she barely did, but she made it.
Let's
and
also
this happens amid harsh criticism of McConnell
Sure.
from a not insignificant wing of the Republican Party on the right.
Yep.
Let's also not discount the success of former President Trump in these states, Kaylee, that definitely in the case of Bernie Moreno, with a 10-point win in Ohio, takes him over the finish line. And we don't know. In Michigan, Mike Rogers. In Pennsylvania, Dave McCormick. And in Montana, Sheehy.
This lead could grow. And there was a long big conversation, especially when you look back at midterm cycles, about President Trump potentially dragging down tickets and, hurting Senate candidates. And in fact, it seems like Senate candidates are finding coattails with President Trump. Interestingly, when we assess the prospect of keeping the House majority, Steve Scalise said we need at least an 8 to 10 seat buffer because he expects, should Donald Trump prevail, which it's looking very good for him right now, that several House members will depart and be various cabinet members in the administration. So you got to start thinking about that. That's a political calculation you can solve, on the inside, but something to think about nonetheless. I would just say this, the word here, the word on other networks that I'm hearing constantly is the word underperforming for Kamala Harris. We're seeing it repeatedly. We're seeing it among demographics. She's underperforming. And while we don't have results right now, we do have trends, and the trends do not look good.
Let me just interrupt. As we see on the screen here, this is Wisconsin. This is Hovde with 1.2 million to Baldwin, the incumbent. If we could flip it over to Michigan, Mike Rogers has a lead on Slotkin in that race, 50.3 to 46.9. Now, these races, they fall in the same category. As I mentioned before, Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin, they have a lot of the same issues, energy. All of them campaign similarly, and they all appear to be doing well and maybe outperforming.
Yeah, and just a couple of things about the Senate, because remember that Vice President Harris said that she was open to ending the filibuster if it meant that that was what was necessary to restore Roe v. Wade. There was also discussion, not hammered too much on the campaign trail, but the idea of making Puerto Rico and D.C. states has been kicked around for a long time, possibly expanding the Supreme Court. So these are ideas that I think in many ways were galvanizing to a lot of voters, and we're seeing what's happening in the United States Senate. So if this continues, well, we know now that there's a majority, so at least in the short term, those things won't happen.
Eventually, we're going to check in with Chad Pergram on Capitol Hill. We'll continue with our panel. We have some more raw vote total coming in as a lot of numbers as the race for 270 continues.
Yeah, I see someone says, so Carlos has a nice picture of Biden looking gleeful. Danaka says, NBC has moved on to, did they make the right call to push Biden aside? No, I think that's going to be the real question. Did they make the right call to push him aside? But even if they say, look, Biden couldn't have won, and he probably couldn't have won, that way of doing it, just pushing him aside and inserting Harris in his place, I mean, I just don't think that was appropriate, and that was they could have made some gesture towards democracy by having some kind of a some kind of a contest at the convention, between some contenders, but just simply saying, hey, it's going to be Harris, and the rest of you just better shut up and rally around Harris. That was a disaster, and I think that they're really going to take, they're going to pay a heavy price for that. Who came up with this scheme? It's going to be Obama, Schumer, and Pelosi. All right, let's see. Let's go back to CNN.
Michigan, Pennsylvania will determine the fate of the Harris campaign, whether there's any chance she can come back. As we wait to see those results, I just want to show you something. Bring it up. Remember January 6th, Donald Trump was finished. Even Republicans were running away from Donald Trump. Donald Trump is done as a national politician. I want to show you something. This is Trump overperforming his 2020 performance by 3% or more. Right? This is a statewide look. We're not done with some of these counts out here, so this will change a little bit. But Donald Trump overperforming 2020 after January 6, 2021. That's the statewide look. Look at this. Just look at this when you go to full counties. Look at how many counties across America, 994 of the 4,000 plus, 4,600 plus counties and townships, especially up this way, part of the country, they don't call them counties, they call them townships, but in nearly 1,000, 993 right now. This will change as we go through, but Donald Trump is overperforming, and look at where they are. He's mostly performing in red areas. His vote is getting higher in the areas where he wins elections. Yes, there are some blue places where he's overperforming, but just look at battleground Pennsylvania. Look at all these red counties, places that Trump wins, where he's overperforming by 3% or more what he did in 2020. Then you come out here, let's go up to battleground Michigan. These are the decisive states left on the board right now. Look at in the areas, those are his base areas. He's getting more. The same over here in battleground Wisconsin. So the former president of the United States, given up for dead, Jake, after January 6, 2021, is running stronger now than he did in the last campaign.
All right, John King, thank you so much. Every electoral vote counts, and 4 more are on the line right now as polling places are about to close in Hawaii. And we project Kamala Harris will win the state of Hawaii with its 4 electoral votes. Not a surprise. Hawaii, a reliably Democratic vote, but that does mean a pickup of 4 electoral votes for Kamala Harris. Donald Trump has 230. He is 40 votes away from winning. Kamala Harris has 169 electoral votes. She is 101 votes away from the 270 needed to win. John King.
So, Jake, let's look at the map where we are right now, and then we'll go through some of these battleground states where we're still waiting. But just look at the map right now. You see a lot of red, right? So let's look at the 2020 map. You see the blue, right? The blue wall states, Georgia, Arizona, Nevada, right? Now watch. This is where we are now. 2024 looks a lot different than 2020. But at the moment, looks pretty similar to 2016. Donald Trump won the blue wall. Donald Trump won North Carolina. Donald Trump won Georgia. Donald Trump won Arizona. The only difference would be Hillary Clinton in 2016 did carry Nevada. Donald Trump leads there right now when you come back to 2024. But it's just, 2024. Let me come up here and do this and hit this. And you go there at 2024. So that's the one, it's just a dramatic change when you come here. And so Donald Trump is remaking the map again at the moment. And the question is there any way for Harris to come back? Again, we've given Donald Trump North Carolina. So let's see where we are in Georgia. If Donald Trump also carries Georgia, the vice president cannot afford to lose Pennsylvania. Yes, Nevada's out there, Arizona's out there, Michigan and Wisconsin are out there. 19. I'll show you what I mean in a minute. So can she come back in Georgia to stop that from happening? She's limiting her. If he wins Georgia, her path is so limited. So it's 118,000 votes right now in a state decided 4 years ago by 11,700 votes. Donald Trump with 93%. That's an important number of the vote counted is ahead by nearly 120,000 votes. So you're looking, this is where they would have to be. You can pick up votes elsewhere, but that's where most of the votes are. That's close to half of the state population, right in Atlanta, in the metropolitan area around it. So what's out there? Are there live outstanding votes out there? Well, let's take a look. The answer is yes. Let me get rid of the coloring so you don't have to see that. The answer is yes, they're out there. You're at the point now where you're talking about drawing to an inside straight flush, essentially. You need these votes to come in overwhelming numbers for you. But you do see there's the mathematical possibility. This is why the Harris campaign is on the phone. This is why I assume Donald Trump has not come out yet to say anything, because he's hoping that this one comes off the board as well. You're looking at the math right there. It's possible. So we're waiting for more votes in Georgia. So then you come up, Jake, and we'll look at the blue wall states in a minute to see if any of the math is changing. But if you look at the map right now, you would so much rather be Donald Trump than the vice president.
All right, and we have a projection, John. CNN can project that Kamala Harris will win the Commonwealth of Virginia. Commonwealth of Virginia, with its 13 electoral votes, will go to the Democrat Vice President Kamala Harris. What does that mean for the electoral math? Let's take a look. With 270 electoral votes needed to win, Donald Trump is only 40 behind that with 230. Kamala Harris has 182 electoral votes. Let's bring you a key race alert. Where are we with all the states that we have not projected yet? Pennsylvania, Donald Trump in the lead. 51.3% of the vote. Kamala Harris, 47.6% of the vote. Donald Trump has a more than 213,000 vote lead over her with 84% of the estimated vote in from Pennsylvania. In battleground Michigan, Donald Trump up there, 51.2% of the vote. Kamala Harris has 47% of the vote. Donald Trump with a 107,294 vote lead over Harris, but there's still about 55% of the vote that has not been counted in Michigan. A lot of votes to count in Michigan. Wisconsin now, Donald Trump 51% of the vote, Kamala Harris 47.4%. Donald Trump with a more than 92,000 vote lead over Harris. That's with more than 3/4 of the votes counted in Wisconsin, 77% of the vote. In battleground Georgia, Donald Trump up 50.7% to Harris's 48.4%. Donald Trump with a 118,838 vote lead over Harris, with 93% of the estimated vote in. In battleground Arizona, Donald Trump up 49.8% to Harris's 49.3%. Donald Trump with a 9,600 plus vote lead. That's with slightly more than half of the vote counted in Arizona, 52%. In Nevada, Donald Trump up 73% to Harris's 26.2% of the vote. Donald Trump with an almost 11,000 vote lead. But that is, again, with only 2% of the estimated vote in Nevada counted. Still a lot of votes to count in Nevada. John?
So, Jake, let's look at, right now, you're looking at the big map and you're seeing all that red. Yes, Virginia, we just projected for the vice president. That one's blue. I'll take a closer look in a minute at that one. But you're looking at the blue wall states. Essentially, Harris's only path is to come back in these three states right there. I can give you a conceivable possibility where she only has to come back in two of them, but she has to come back in all three of them, have a reasonable path to 270 electoral votes. And it's a problem at the moment, 168,000 votes. I'm told more votes just recently came in Philadelphia, and indeed they did. So now you're up to 76% estimate. These can change a little bit as more votes come in. But you see that, the vice president opening a healthy lead in Philadelphia, which is a building block of a Democratic win in Pennsylvania. The question is it enough? I just showed you Trump was leading. So 78%, 477,000 votes. If you go back 4 years ago, it's 81%, and it's 603,000 votes. Remember that, 81. And 603, 78, and 477. Can she move both numbers up when we get the final quarter of the vote? That's the challenge, because you need that math, forgive me, to overcome that. 168,000 votes in a state that was decided by 80,000 votes 4 years ago and 40,000 votes 4 years before that. That is a big lead in a tight state like Pennsylvania with 85% of the votes. So you're saying, is it just Philadelphia and the suburbs where there are outstanding votes? Again, if you're joining us late, the larger the circle, the more votes that are still outstanding to be counted, the color, the way the candidate who's winning in that area at the moment. And so you still do right here, Philadelphia, Delaware County, Chester County, Montgomery County. There's still some math to be done there. A little bit out there in Allegheny County, where we talked to Brian Todd early in the night. A little bit up in Erie County, which is a swing county. Tends to be very close, though. So let's come back and look at this as we come through it. Number one, there are bellwether counties in Pennsylvania. Northampton is one of them, and Trump is winning with 52% of the vote right now. This county usually picks the winner in the state. As I say that, I'll say its twin is Erie, way over here, not twin geographically. It's twin in that they voted twice for Obama, then for Trump, then for Biden. Erie and Northampton, 2 of the 25 counties that did that. At the moment, the vice president is leading in Erie County. In the last campaign, it was Vigo County, Indiana. Their streak of picking the winner went off the board. We'll see if the two swing counties in Pennsylvania split as this election goes through. But if you're looking at this map right now, 85% of the vote, it's this. That's big. If you're looking at 50,000, 60,000, it's easier to do the math. You're looking at 168,000, the math gets hard. Is it impossible? No. But the question is, when you start coming in here, Chester County's at 81%, large suburban counties where if you get 20 or 30% of the votes still out, you can do some big math. Montgomery County at 68%. As you can see, this is a much more populous county. So you're waiting for the 30% to come in there. The vice president would have to win it gangbusters, probably higher than the percentage she's getting so far. I just want to check it against President Biden. It's a little below President Biden, which seems pretty consistent when you go through some of these areas across these states. Bucks County is this one here. Yes, I'm in the right place. That's Montgomery. Oh, Bucks has turned red. That's why I couldn't find it, because Bucks has turned red. Only 55% of the vote in. But if this is red at the end of the night, Donald Trump's going to win the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. This is the more blue-collar, the more competitive of the three-collar counties. It's Bucks, Delaware, and Montgomery. Used to be, this was solidly Democratic, and the others were Republican. The education divide has flipped that one. Montgomery and Delaware are reliably blue. But look at this. Donald Trump, only 55% of the vote in. But look at that, 50 to 49. If you do it there, you go back in time, 51, 48, 47. So Trump was competitive here. It was a 4-point race, a little more than that 4 years ago. But again, in a close battleground state, you want to move the margins, you flip a county. So let's see if that one holds as we go. If you're in the Harris campaign, that particularly makes you nervous. And then you come out here, and again, I just want to pick them randomly. This is where Trump just runs it up. But so you're saying, can she come back in the Philadelphia suburbs and in Philadelphia? Mathematically, you can make the case. Common sense wise, you start after a while to think, he's getting 75% here, he's getting 78% here. There's a little bit of vote out there, not much, not hardly anything left there, not much left there. So his vote is mostly in. Trump's vote is mostly in when you look at the map. But the question is there really enough there? And let's see where they are here. 94% in Allegheny County. So again, you're getting 59 to 39, 20-point gap. 20-point gap. So yeah, but it's got to be a lot of votes to come in, and they say they're at 94%. So it's not impossible. I would say we're starting to lean into the improbable. And let's go over into Michigan. This is a state where the vice president was leading early on, then Donald Trump took the lead. He takes the lead sometimes in these states when all these rural counties fill in. Look at them all. Right? And again, you just find him, and he's at 67% here, and he's at 65% here. He's at 66% plus there. Not a lot of people, but when you've got 83 counties and you're winning 60 or 70 of them, that's how it works. And he builds it up there. And then the question is, can the Democrats overcome it with huge numbers where the people live? Number one, Wayne County, we're still only at 16%. So if you're in the Harris campaign, you're saying, okay, we have almost nothing or less than 20% from Detroit. Right? So she's getting 62%. She has 88,000 votes. And Jake, if you go back to 2020, again, when Donald Trump won Michigan, he's getting 68, and he gets close to 600,000 votes. So that's sort of our test. When Wayne County gives us more votes, do we get a huge number like that? And is the split, right? Donald Trump at 30%, that's Detroit and the suburbs around it. Donald Trump right now, it's only 20%. It's less than 20%, 16%. So, but that if he's even above 30, right? Anything he's above 30 is an improvement for him. And so we can't see it all on this map. We have to get more granular. But Detroit, is he doing better? Is Trump doing better with the black vote? Or where is overall turnout maybe down a little bit from 2020? That's a big question too. And then here you have Hamtramck and you have Dearborn. They're not on the map, but they're right here. Those are two very important pockets of Arab American voters that were 200,000 plus voted for Joe Biden 4 years ago. We don't know. We don't have that granular detail just yet, but that was one of the big questions in the campaign. Spent a lot of time on my trips at Wayne State campus. Younger voters, a lot of Arab and Muslim students at Wayne State, and a lot of young progressive students at Wayne State. Did they lose the youth vote there? A lot of the questions. Now, I'm raising questions that we'll answer in more detail tomorrow and next week and the week after that when we have final results. But if you're 158,000 votes ahead, only halfway in Michigan, I mean, I hate to say it, but like you're looking at this and like that's the best of the three blue wall states.
Let's go to Wayne County right now. Let's go to Detroit where we find Jim Sciutto has an update on the vote count there. Jim?
Jake, there have been a lot of questions and some consternation as to why we haven't seen more data from Wayne County yet. And I just spoke with the Secretary of State, Jocelyn Benson, and we believe we have the answer here. I asked her quite specifically. And she said the reason is that Wayne County, in part, given all the scrutiny on this county as it impacts the outcome of the election in this state, is not reporting partial results. It's waiting until it has either all or the vast majority of those results in before it, in effect, gives that batch and makes it public. And I just want to highlight one point that's going to happen in the next hour, perhaps even the next few minutes. A nondescript U-Haul van is going to drive in one of these doors behind me here with the last remaining outstanding absentee ballots in Detroit, part of Wayne County, about 4,000 we expect. That's the final batch, not just, we are told, of absentee ballots outstanding, but the final outstanding votes in Detroit, big part of Wayne County. So when that truck comes through the door, they begin to tabulate those. That gets us to the point where they're going to have, in effect, all the votes they need to count and get to that point where they're going to be ready to report those final figures. We were told it could be in the next few minutes. We'll be watching. We'll report back when it happens. But that could be the point when you get that big batch reported publicly.
All right, Jim Sciutto in Detroit, Wayne County. And you were noting that we don't have Wayne County to the granular level, that we can't see Dearborn and other places where there were a lot of uncommitted votes during the Democratic primary. But just to remind our viewers, during the Democratic primaries, as a protest of President Biden's support for the Netanyahu government of Israel and its war on Hamas in Gaza, 100,000 Democrats voted uncommitted, presumably most of them as a protest vote against Biden for that issue.
Yes, absolutely. And most of them were located here in Wayne County. Again, you have Detroit, progressive city, but also Hamtramck and Dearborn, just to the north and to the west. Large pockets, Arab American communities there that are very angry at the White House. And then the next one, you come out here again. This is Washtenaw County, where I've been 4 times, maybe 5 times, no 4, in this election to go to the University of Michigan and talk to people out there. And again, we're at 71% right now, so the numbers can change. But she's at 66%. This is Ann Arbor, University of Michigan. Again, you have a big college campus. It tends to be a very liberal pocket, progressive pocket. You're saying, wow, 65% of the vote, 66 if you round up, that's great.
Oh my God,
73%. And the math, 157,000, to 103. Well, again, we got 30% of the votes still to come in, and maybe the percentages change as well. Maybe all the votes that are out are from the campus, and and it juices up the number a little bit. But if you're looking at that now, you're underperforming the president of the United States, and Donald Trump's at 32% and 26%. That's if that gap holds, and if his improvement like that holds, I'm sorry, go ahead. That's a big deal, though.
Well, I was just going to say, one of the things you hear from the Arab American and Muslim American community in places like Michigan is not that they were going to vote for Donald Trump, but they either were not going to vote or they were going to vote for Jill Stein or Cornel West. I'm not sure if Cornel West is on the ballot in Michigan, but these numbers don't add up to 100 here. So I'm guessing that there is a better than, my guess would be, educated guess would be, there's going to be a better than average showing for Jill Stein in Michigan than in other states.
Right, and she worked it hard. She was out there quite a bit. Every trip I was out there, you saw activity. Either she was in the state or had just been in the state.
Yeah. So just to explain it. Now, one of the other things I heard about people talking about Michigan is everybody in the media, all you talk about is the Arab American, Muslim American vote. But really the issue in terms of a big sizable, bigger chunk of votes is white working class voters, union voters, because the Trump campaign ran ads slamming Harris's position on electric vehicles, EVs, and that is actually going to be more significant. Ultimately, that was this is just their projection, than the Arab American, Muslim American vote. Is there any way we can gauge that, how well or poorly she did compared to Biden when it comes to white, non-college educated union voters?
David would have the exit polls. We can look at union households. That's a question on the exit polls. But I can show you some counties where we were. 3 times I went out there to talk to union auto worker groups. And I want to just say this up front. There are more automobile manufacturing jobs in the United States today than at any point during the Trump presidency. I repeat, there are more auto manufacturing jobs in the United States today than at any point in the Trump presidency. However, the EV debate is a debate. Stellantis just laid off 1,100 people, right? And in part because they say they have electric vehicles sitting on the lot. The union says that's BS. It's corporate greed. They're not keeping their word. But this is a conversation. Are they going too fast? At a minimum, are they going too fast? There are some auto workers who say, why are you forcing this on us? There are others saying the infrastructure is not in place. Culturally, people aren't ready for them. Why are you going so fast? So one of the places you'll find that is right here in Macomb County. We met Joseph Knowles, just laid off from Stellantis, a black union auto worker. Nobody in his family had ever voted Republican for president. He was voting for Donald Trump. And everybody in his family was mad at him. This is where you find them right here. Bill Govier is another Ford worker in Macomb County who wanted to vote for Robert F. Kennedy Jr. When he dropped out and backed Trump, Bill Govier said, that's great. I love them both. And he voted for Trump a 3rd time. So some of them have been in Trump's camp, like a Bill Govier. But Joseph Knowles is a +1. Voted Democrat all his life, right? So there, Macomb County, we got a long way to go here. 36%. But Trump at 58, when you round that up, Trump at 53, right there. So again, we'll see if that sustains itself.
Yeah.
And the Biden number at 45, Harris number at 40. If that's the number at the end, then it's very hard.
Well,
to
there
see
you go, and you can see why not all of that change is from that one issue or that one demographic I described, but that is quite significant if it holds. Let's go to Pamela Brown at the voting desk. Let's jump to Wisconsin if we could, because Pamela wants to talk about Milwaukee and what's going on there. Pamela?
Yeah, I've been talking to officials there in Milwaukee County as well as the city. Let's look at Milwaukee County right now. A large portion of the vote that remains is from Milwaukee City itself. This is the largest county. This is the largest city in Wisconsin. According to a source in Milwaukee County, 9 out of 19 municipalities are completely reported. And the source also says that the county County clerk there expects all results from Milwaukee County to be reported between 2 and 4 a.m. tonight, Central Time. So these results coming in overnight there from Milwaukee County. That is the expectation. Now, let's dive in here to the Milwaukee City. I just spoke to an official there. Milwaukee City has 27,724 mail-in ballots left to be counted so far. In addition, officials are still waiting for results from 4 wards still, and those would be the day of votes. So from election day. So there's still quite a bit to go to count tonight there in Milwaukee City. For context, 69% went for Biden in 2020. And as I mentioned, this is the largest county in Wisconsin. So we're keeping a close eye on this.
All right, Pamela, thanks so much. Let's take a look at Wisconsin as long as Pamela drove us here.
So a critical point she makes, 4 wards in the city of Milwaukee still have not reported their election day votes. And again, anecdotally, just texting people out in the state, they said turnout was good. They weren't saying great or gangbusters, they were saying good. So you wait. But again, so we're waiting for the city. This is Milwaukee plus the suburbs around it. The county is what you see here. But she's at 66% and Joe Biden's at 69%. So when those city of Milwaukee votes come in, that not only does that percentage need to move, but that math needs to change quite significantly if you're trying to make up that. Now, 96,000, that's better than 150,000, right? Simple math, people. We always say politics can be very complicated. Sometimes it comes down to basic arithmetic. Are there enough votes still out there to overcome a 96,000 vote lead? And so if Pam says 4 big wards are still out in Milwaukee City and there's a little bit more in Milwaukee County, the answer is maybe. But again, you're getting to the point where you're drawing to an inside straight flush, but maybe. So then you look around in other Democratic areas, and again, Eau Claire, she's getting 55% of the vote. I just want to compare that. That's okay, a little better maybe, but it's not a ton of. It's just not a ton of people there. And you come down and look across. You're looking at the blue areas, and you're saying, is there anything left? Not much left, right? It's not a huge swing anyway. So even if you pick up some votes, you're not picking up a ton there. So if you're looking at this map now, I just want to check what was our percentage here? 95% in Dane County, and these other blue counties around it. I'll hit them for you. You just see they're pretty small population-wise. I mean, not tiny, but again, you're at 95% Rock County, 95% Greene County, 92% Lafayette County. That one is a little bit smaller. So again, the math's getting really hard if you're trying to figure out can Harris come back in Wisconsin. And I would say simply that it comes down to that, and those Milwaukee precincts that are out better be gangbusters.
May I do a personal prerogative? May I see the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania? We haven't checked in there in a while, and that's obviously a place near and dear to my heart. And I have questions about it. One of them is Allentown, which is blue right now. Allentown, the city of Allentown is 54% Latino, 54%, and Pennsylvania, as we've discussed, has the 3rd largest Puerto Rican population on the mainland, behind only New York and New York and Florida. So my question is, how is she doing in this Latino area compared to Joe Biden 4 years ago?
Again, cannot go granular just into the city of Allentown.
Right.
You can look at Lehigh County here, right? And I can already tell you, 51 to 48. If you're the Trump campaign, sure, you'd like to win it, but you're looking at 48% in Lehigh County, and you're feeling pretty good because you were 46 last time, right? And again, within a battleground state, you think margins within the margins, the battlegrounds within the battlegrounds. So, Joe Biden at 53% with 98,000 votes. The vice president at 50% with 93,000 votes. Now, we're not completely done there, but that 5,000 votes makes a big difference. It just does, right? So that's there, right? So then you come out here and you come up, let's just move on up, right? Carbon County, look at this, Trump getting 73% of the vote. He's improved. That's one of the places he's overperformed himself. And then you move up here. This is Lackawanna County, Scranton, Pennsylvania, Joe Biden's hometown. It's a tough, competitive blue-collar area, but 51 to 48 now, 54 to 45.
And if that movement of 4%
it
can be the whole thing.
It's a couple thousand votes here. It's a couple thousand votes there. I want to show you.
By the way, can I just point out?
Erie has now flipped.
Erie, which has always voted with the presidential victor in Pennsylvania and nationally, is now with
has flipped. And let's see where the turnout is there. Again, it's one of the 25. They're at 95%. It's very close, but it's always very close. So you see Erie County, very close there. And I just want to come across the state, Northampton County. So you're on the, your Buffalo, New York border, and here's New Jersey here. You've got, 52 to 47 there. Not done yet, but the 2 multi-pivot counties, twice for Obama, then for Trump, then for Biden. At the moment, they're going back to Trump. I just want to show one more thing we haven't shown tonight. I just want to bring this up. It's not here. It is here. No, it is here. Sorry. I'll figure this out eventually. I promise you. I just have too many gizmos. Just want to come in here. Come on. And show you this. So let's go out nationally first. Everyone's been talking all night long about the headwinds. There'll be a lot of questions asked about this after the fact. This is not a good environment for any incumbent. Kamala Harris is the incumbent vice president. What this shows you is not votes. This shows you the darker the county, the more that county has been hit by inflation. Meaning, the darker the county, the more cost of living, energy prices, gas prices, housing prices in a lot of places have outpaced wage increases. Right? Try to find me. See the green?
Yeah, what does that mean? That's
the county where your wages have outpaced inflations. You can use a hand. You will fill one hand in the more than 4,000 counties and townships in the United States. You use one hand to fill out the counties where wages have outpaced inflation.
So can I make two observations?
So I just want to come back into your comment.
Oh my goodness!
I want to come back to your comment. The darker the county, the more punishing, the more inflation has outpaced your wages, your cost of living. And just look. I mean, the fact that she's doing as well in the suburbs is a testament to the Democratic strength there. But you see in these other places, it's just that was the headwind. And that came up. I can tell you I was on the road for 15 months, and that came up from the first trip to the last trip, even for people voting for Harris, even for people gladly and proudly voting for Harris, we're saying it still sucks when I go to the grocery store.
Yeah, and that's also why, the right track, wrong track numbers are 75% wrong track, 25, but the election's not 75%, 25, because there are people who think it's wrong track, but they're still going to vote for the Democrat. Yet, this is difficult to fight against if you're the incumbent.
That's North Carolina. Especially you're trying to win back.
Look at all the dark colors in Arizona and Nevada.
It gets worse as you go west. That's what I was going to say. And you're in Georgia. Look, this is the Atlanta suburbs, right? If she loses just a little tiny bit, right? And look down here. These are working class people, right? And then you're absolutely right. Then you come out here and you look at in Arizona. That's Maricopa County. That's the largest county. Up here is usually Democratic area.
He's winning Maricopa County.
He is at the, that's just the, let's see. Let's come up there. It's close. That one's close still at half and half as you bring that up. And then you come here. This to me, of all the visits, you want to talk a place that still has the COVID body bruise.
Yep.
Because unemployment hit 30%, twice the national average.
Tourism.
And then the cost of living. I mean, look at it right there. Where, again, the darker the county, the more, and out here it's housing more than anything. Housing in Vegas.
I don't know. I guess I still have my fears that that they're going to pull some kind of a stunt, a la 2020. They're going to start. They're going to start digging up votes. They're going to start, having more of some vote dumps. So some absentee ballots suddenly coming in the last minute. So I don't know. I don't know. I do think that there's still a possibility that they're gonna do what they did in 2020. Suddenly, we found some more absentee votes. And if they go down that path, then I wouldn't be surprised if at some point tonight, maybe in the next half hour or so, Trump doesn't come out and claim victory. He may do that. He may just simply say, I won this election. I'm ahead in all of the battleground states, and we're not going to just accept votes suddenly appearing out of nowhere. So I have to. So I don't know. I just think that we've got to be careful about that. I mean, again. These are Democrats that we're dealing with, and these Democrats, they don't just give up power. They're not going to say, okay, well, you won fair and square. You know, you beat us, but that's it. So I have to think that they still have some tricks up their sleeve, and I think that they may well start finding absentee ballots. Remember, they only have to find them in 3 states. It's only in those 3 states, the 3 Great Lakes states, they find the absentee ballots. I don't know. I just know that they're not just going to accept a defeat at the hands of Trump. Anyway, let's go back to CNN. All right, let's try Fox News. What's on Fox News?
Crowd erupts, and when they are all you're making, and it's been fascinating to watch the energy in the room increase as the odds have moved in favor of Trump winning. And we've been talking to voters all night. This is what I love about election night. You guys know this. You've got pundits, you've got polls, and on election night, the people speak. And the people here are watching this may be a bright red state where their vote doesn't necessarily matter in the Electoral College, but they're watching their fellow Americans cast ballots on behalf of a candidate they believe in. So a lot of energy, and I think represents a lot of living rooms where maybe families of 4 or 5 are chanting USA, as you guys are bringing in the returns. A lot of hope that the former president will be 47. It's just a matter of when it might be called. So thanks for indulging us here on Fox Nation. We just wrapped our coverage, and you guys are doing a phenomenal job.
Thank you, Pete.
Thank
There's
you.
probably some good music down there, too.
Exactly. Say hi to everybody for us down there.
Maybe not New Edition, but something. Let's bring in our panel. Welcome back, Karl Rove, Jessica Tarloff, and Sandra Smith, and our regulars to the right. Sandra, great job looking into the Fox News voter analysis. What are you looking at?
All right, a few things. We haven't really talked about fracking in Pennsylvania, as we do wait on results to continue to come in there. Views on fracking. This is obviously key in the state.
All right, let's go back to CNN. That's better.
Remind everyone at home, there are 2 separate parties happening right now. A watch party here where I am at the Convention Center in West Palm Beach, Florida. And then Donald Trump was also having an event at his Mar-a-Lago club surrounded by Republican allies, major donors, people like Elon Musk and RFK Jr. But we are now hearing from sources that Donald Trump is making plans to come over here. Obviously, they have to prepare the motorcade for him to get in to take about a 10-minute drive over here where the convention center is. But Jake, that is a sign of how good the Trump campaign is feeling based on the numbers that John King just read there, that Donald Trump is preparing to come over here. He said earlier he had no speech planned. We'll see what he says when he's here. Christian Holmes, we've been watching all of this. And obviously the Trump team has been watching the breakdown here of how he's been doing with certain demographics and how he's improving from where his standing was actually in 2020, certainly in 2016.
Yeah, and
we were told that that was what they were seeing in internal polling. But of course, given what we were seeing and the people we were talking to on the ground, we had to wait and see how it played out. Now, I do want to add to what Donald Trump is doing right now, because we were told that while he was over at Mar-a-Lago, essentially this was a watch party, that was a dinner, they had giant screens. But the plan was always that if Donald Trump was going to come over, they were going to bring those members that were there at Mar-a-Lago over here. And I am told that currently those members are being bussed over here, meaning that Donald Trump's arrival is likely imminent. Now, all of those members are obviously going to have to be in place. As we've reported, it's kind of sparse here. There's not a lot of people. They're expecting over 100 people to be bussed over here. Those people are going to have to be in place before Donald Trump takes the stage, because these are going to be some of his biggest fans. They're going to want to fill the crowd here. But now they're coming over, so that gives you a little bit of a timeline of when we see Donald Trump moving from Mar-a-Lago to here. As we know, this room is about to fill up pretty quickly, probably within the next half hour.
Yeah, and of course the big question is what he's going to say. Obviously, he wouldn't come here likely and not take the stage that's behind us. It's already a room that's filled with his supporters. We'll be waiting to see what they say. Jake, obviously something that we've been watching closely, as ever since a few hours ago when those Virginia numbers were coming in, that was what first gave that sense of confidence to the Trump campaign. And obviously that has only continued to grow ever since seeing the calls in North Carolina, how well these Republican Senate candidates are doing also, and those numbers there in Pennsylvania, Jake.
All right, Caitlin, thanks so much. As we prepare for what we think is going to happen, Mr. Trump coming out and speaking, it is a good moment for us just to take a measure of where the night is at this moment. We're still, of course, waiting to call several of the battleground states, 6 out of 7 of them. But Chris, right now, I think it's fair to say anybody watching would rather be Donald Trump than Kamala Harris at this moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, if he declares victory, he hasn't won the race yet. There is still a potential path to 270 electoral votes. None of the blue wall states have been called. If he says the trends are looking very good tonight, you can't argue with that.
And I'm going to go to Jake for a major projection.
That's right. We have another major projection for you now. And CNN can project that Georgia will go to Donald Trump. Georgia, a very highly contested battleground of 16 electoral votes. This is the second of 7 battleground states that we have called, and both of them have been for Donald Trump. Let's take a look at what that means for the electoral math. Donald Trump right now has 246 electoral votes. Kamala Harris right now has 182 electoral votes. There are 270 needed to win. As of right now, CNN is not ready to project who is going to win the presidency, but I'm sorry for so rudely interrupting. Donald Trump has now been projected to have won the second of 7 key battleground states, with 5 more to go. And obviously the blue wall states, as you were saying, are crucial.
And this is a flip, because in 2020, Joe Biden won. Now, despite the fact that Donald Trump tried really hard to find those 11,000 plus votes, they weren't there. And this time around, the projection that you just made is that they are there, plus, who knows however many votes there are. So this is even more evidence why we heard the Harris campaign manager, Jen O'Malley Dillon, say to reporters maybe an hour or 2 ago that the Sun Belt is basically gone, and they're looking at the blue wall, and they're still insisting that it is possible. But this is, again, a very, very bad news.
I mean, we went into the night with a lot of people talking about a potential realignment with both parties. Who would be the mix of people in each coalition? But it's actually looking pretty close to what we know in the past. You have white women voters with no college degree going for Trump in our exit polls. Similarly, with Latino men also going very heavily for Trump in our exit polls. So there's a sense that, people did not necessarily go into the ballot box and secretly vote for someone else. The people who in the past voted for Trump came home to Trump.
People will be going through these exit polls and the analysis and what worked for Trump and didn't work for Harris. On gender, back in 2020, Biden won women by 7 points more than Trump won men. This time it's exactly even. Harris won women by 10 points. Trump won then by 10 points. But the one that just stands out, sort of a flashing light, Jake, Hispanics. Biden won Hispanics 4 years ago by 32 points. As of tonight, Harris has won Hispanics by 8 points.
Can I just add one other thing about what this Georgia projection means? What it means is that she's got to win Pennsylvania. If she doesn't win Pennsylvania, it's over.
Yeah, no, absolutely, especially with the fact that he is leading right now in the 5 battleground states that we have not called. He is leading in all 5 of them: Nevada, Arizona, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. Donald Trump widening his lead in the race to 270 electoral votes with this new win. In Georgia, ballots are, of course, still being counted in these crucial battlegrounds. We could get new reporting on votes at any time. We're going to squeeze in a quick break. We'll be right back.
I just think we're going to go through Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania in some detail. We're going to get also, hopefully, we'll do one better to get the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump. Sugarman, right here in Real America's Voice. I'll get re-hooked up. We're trying to get some other folks here in Pennsylvania and others as we pass the midnight hour. And we're getting slow walked by Democratic administrations in Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. Sugar.
Real America's Voice 2024 election coverage is brought to you by TrumpKnifeSet.com. This is the #1 Trump Christmas gift for 2024. TrumpKnifeSet.com. We're a family. It all comes down to this. Trump's gonna win. We can reclaim this country. We can save this country. Real America's Voice brings you election 2024.
We got more passion, we got more strength.
Yes, we can win, and yes, they'll cheat. From coast to coast, Americans stand at the ballot box, choosing the leaders who will chart our course.
Get in line and stay in line.
With live updates and expert analysis, Real America's Voice is the place to be.
I'm discussing a landslide election like what Ronald Reagan delivered in 1980.
Starting at 5 p.m. Tuesday, we're covering every moment because the stakes couldn't be higher.
We are going to see a landslide victory for Donald J. Trump.
Real America's Voice election night, where your vote is heard.
My money is on the American people and the MAGA movement and Donald John Trump.
We're going to defeat Kamala Harris.
The third is dedication, love Japan, love Real America's Voice, real news, honest views, and love seeing everyone there. God bless America.
Hello, you grabbers. I'm Billy Howard, your old buddy Jeffrey Morgan from the chat, and I'm thrilled to be part of the Rat Band, but I wasn't heard. I used my
Hello, this is Kurt. I know Raph. You ever talk to the host? You can do that on Raph. The Raph family, they'll talk back to you too. Let you know what's going on. Take care.
I'm Luke. I'm not scared of I'm good. You sometimes learn. The best place for real news is Real America's
It is election night in America, and let us bring you back to where we are right now with 270 electoral votes needed to win. Donald Trump is in the lead with 246. Kamala Harris is at 182. There are still 5 battleground states that remain uncalled by CNN. Let us go and look at where they are. Pennsylvania. Donald Trump in the lead with 50.8% of the vote. Kamala Harris with 48.1% of the vote. Donald Trump has a more than 165,000 vote lead. Let's go to Kamala Harris headquarters right now. Let's listen in.
Good evening, HU. I want to say good evening to all of the Harris campaign, the campaign family. Thank you for all that you have done. Thank you for being here. Thank you for believing in the promise of America.
So the word is that Trump is heading from Mar-a-Lago to the convention center, where he will make some announcement. That'll be very interesting. What announcement does he make? Is he going to declare himself the victor, and then essentially dare the Democrats to cheat and to steal it? I don't know, but he's on his way to the convention center. So we'll see. So that should be really very shortly. So let's go back. I hope CNN shows it, but I wonder if let's see what's on Fox News. Are they going to show Trump heading towards the convention center?
And you won't hear from her tonight. You'll hear from her tomorrow.
Go HU, by the way, is Howard University. That's where the campaign headquarters party is. But the vote is still going. They're not stopping. The counting is still continuing in Wisconsin, in Michigan, in Pennsylvania, in Arizona, in Nevada. So, as you start getting to a decision here, and we could be getting close to a decision, we'll see where we are in Georgia. There have been other calls for Georgia. We are now in Michigan. Bill Hemmer, seeing some movement.
Up over 6 points, 6.3 now. The margin's getting larger for Trump here. Raw vote count is 210,000. So if you start doing some math and you think like what's outstanding in Detroit, Wayne County, which is a lot, it's a sizable amount of votes out there. But whether or not there's enough votes in Wayne, once they announce and release, whether or not it's enough to overcome his lead right now.
What about Kent County? He has closed 3 campaigns in Grand Rapids, and he just closed this one there last night.
Yeah, Kent County has been stubborn for Donald Trump. I think he would probably confess that. This was a flipper from 2020 when Joe Biden took it from the Trump team. Right now in Kent County, she's got a pretty comfortable lead here, about 10 points. It's a remarkable thing when you think about it. The Gerald Ford Museum is there, and we talked about 5 hours ago about the realignment in America in the South, primarily in North Carolina and Georgia, and perhaps parts of Florida. You don't think about a realignment in Michigan necessarily, but this has been an area that Donald Trump wanted to win. There's a reason why he started his tradition in 2016 by concluding his campaign in Kent County, Grand Rapids. He did it again in 2020 in a losing effort. He did it again just this past weekend, Monday night at midnight, right? He rolled into, he rolled into Florida at 5:30 in the morning. That was yesterday morning. No, it wasn't. It was this morning, wasn't it? Right. Because it was Wednesday, right? Okay, you follow me on the calendar? Okay, yeah, okay. But it's been stubborn. It appears that it'll stick that way as well. Kent County and Grand Rapids will stay in the blue column. It's a changing area, this west coast of Michigan. But what I'm seeing right now, even though you have just about 60% of the vote in, I'm seeing a lot of red lining up and down Lake Michigan. And for a while, that had changed. It seemed to be shifting a little bit. There's a county right here called Muskegon, beautiful part of the world. And that had seemed to be drifting in the Democratic column as well. But Trump's got a firm grip on it now, 16 points. And I'll just go south of Muskegon, west of Grand Rapids is Ottawa County there. Like for years, this was like a Republican bastion. Trump kept it that way in 2020, winning by 21.5 points. In 2016, in Ottawa specifically, you ran away with it at 30 points. And so it will stay that way tonight. And let me just come out to real-time data here and let you know where we are statewide. You've got some vote out there, but you see this margin here yet again, just as I'm talking here, guys, it's ticking higher, 210,967, 6.3 percentage point lead in Michigan. I'm not going to say it because it's not my job, but it looks like the blue wall could stay intact yet again for another year where it votes in unison with the winning party who takes the White House that year.
Since 1988, that has held.
I think we're getting ready for a call.
I think we are too. Are we?
Fox News can now project that the state of Georgia will go to former President Donald Trump. This was a really hard-fought battle. If you think about Georgia, loses it last time to President Biden by 11,779 votes. For some reason, that number sticks in my mind. And this is a big win. He went there, campaigned there, and so did Vice President Harris numerous times, thinking that Georgia could stay in the Democratic column.
You know, he had a difficult relationship with Governor Brian Kemp, if you remember 4 years ago after losing Georgia. They tried to salvage 2 Senate races in Georgia. A month later, special elections. That didn't go well either. So this is a very big win for former President Trump to, have this redemption in Georgia tonight.
So now we are at electoral college vote at 248 for Trump and 216 for Harris. We have a panel. We're welcoming in Darren Shaw, member of the Fox News Decision Desk. Welcome in Juan Williams as well, along with Karl Rove. Darren, we got you out here. We were going to say, what happened? Are we calling Georgia? And then you push the button.
Are you here to tell us that we were right when we said you called Georgia?
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, I thought you were going to come down here to grill me, and we preempted that.
What else are we going to call?
Yeah.
You guys called Georgia in the nick of time for you, Darren.
That's exactly right. While we have you, how do you see this night? And was it like you thought going in? And as you look at the blue wall there?
Well, I think 2 things. This is an election. This is unprecedented by my standards because the more data I saw, the more possibilities seemed to unfold. There was stuff a couple weeks ago I didn't think could happen. I didn't think Trump could win, let's say, the national vote. I'm not saying he's going to, but that was something that nobody thought could happen. They thought he was capped at 47, 48%. That's a possibility. We had a lot of conversations about whether these, swing states were going to move together or whether they were going to sort of crack and each move separately. There's a possibility tonight that, I didn't think this would happen earlier in the afternoon, but that he could sweep all of them. That's not a prediction, but it's something that's within the realm of possibility with the data we've seen.
You're saying blue wall turns into a red wall?
It's possible. And that wasn't something anybody was talking about. People talked about Michigan in particular as being the toughest state for Trump to crack. Now, Bill's shown the data recently. We've been looking at it for hours. Michigan's looking very difficult for her right now.
All these toss-up states have been within a point or 2. So is there any way to look at what you see now and say this could be a win in a larger percentage than that? I mean, a lot of these states are still close, but...
Right. What we're looking at right now, we have sort of model data, and we're looking to reach a certain level of statistical significance to make a call. We're also looking at what we call the outstanding vote. And so, for instance, in the case of Georgia, we were modeling about 835,000 outstanding votes. The lion's share of them were coming from suburban Atlanta. She needed to hit about 55, 56%. She was getting about 45%. And at a certain level, that becomes a statistical impossibility. The more data you get, the less room she has to actually grow or do better than she's been performing. And so that sort of triggered the call in Georgia. We're not quite there yet in the other states, but this may not be an election where we need to be here till Thursday or Friday.
Right. And so when they say go home, relax, you're saying maybe not yet.
We'll see if they, continue to count. Arizona and Nevada have been particularly stubborn about that. We understand in Nevada they don't allow any counting until the last vote has been cast, which is, we think, why we're getting basically nothing from Nevada so far. But Arizona, it's coming in sort of droves. It's a close race there. Wisconsin and Michigan. Michigan seems to be counting there at like 54, 55%. Wisconsin at 2 a.m. in 2020 had counted 99% of the votes. So we think there's a chance we might have enough data in Wisconsin, maybe Michigan. So we may have some resolution more quickly than we thought.
So in Pennsylvania, Sean talked about this earlier, the early vote and what that looked like and what she would have to do day of in Philadelphia and those counties right around there. Is it possible that that's still out there and it's possible to do?
Well, it seems to be a probability diminishing by the hour. I think this is something from the Georgia data, but we've also seen it in Pennsylvania. Young African-American men did not come home. Part of the African-American vote came home to her, but a lot of it didn't, and there's a gender gap there. And the Georgia, I think, I have to run the numbers, and I'm not going to lay this at the feet of any demographic group in particular, But she really did seem to underachieve amongst African-American males, especially young African-American males.
I mean, it just makes me think about Michelle Obama and Barack Obama, the former president, and the very strong appeals that they made. Michelle Obama said, you know, don't let your husband or boyfriend's rage dictate your vote. President Obama talked about bringing out the brothers and scolding them. That does not seem to have been a strategy that worked.
Darren, did the Fox News voter analysis track with what you saw with raw vote as you went around the states?
Yes. You know, there were a couple. What we're doing early on is we get this early vote from Indiana and Kentucky. It allows us to kind of figure out is the FNVA performing consistent with the data. There were a couple states where Trump overperformed a bit. Florida was one. We were a little concerned that we might be overestimating Trump's performance in rural areas, but the more data we got, the more that didn't seem to be the case. It seemed like he was basically hitting what we thought he would hit.
I mean, we've got the brain here. Did anybody else have a question for Darren?
I'm curious about immigration and what you've seen in terms of how much that played into the votes in some of these states.
Well, I think the one thing we can say is that it didn't repel people. In particular, there was some talk about the Hispanic vote coming home over the issue of immigration. That did not seem to happen much at all. You know, the FNVA suggested, I think it was 40% was Trump's performance amongst Latinos. That ended up being, I think, within 13 or 14 points of Harris's. I mean, if you showed me data before the election and said, you know, that he's going to get 15% of the African-American vote, 40% of the Hispanic vote, I'd say that's an awfully tough night for a Democrat to win an election in.
There's some reporting that Trump has won Erie County, Pennsylvania. Is that square with anything you understand?
I think that's. I think it was on sort of a knife's edge. I don't know if Bill's got the latest data, but
It was a what would go here.
It's part of her hope,
It
right?
went back to the Trump team, and right now, currently, just to keep you guys up to date, he leads it by a point in 1.4, which is a little less than 2,000 raw votes.
And it's 99%
left out. How much?
Yeah.
It's 99% in, or 90? What did you say?
90,
99%.
statewide 90%. Darren, I got a question for you. When you think about the blue wall in the upper Midwest, when we were at the convention in Milwaukee in July, it ended on a Thursday. On a Friday, we had that national computer glitch, and all the airports were shut down. So all the delegates and all the journalists and all the campaign folks were stranded at the airport in Milwaukee. And I was still thinking at the time about, you know, why did I just see Kid Rock? And why did I see Hulk Hogan? And why did I see Dana White? And I went to the campaign and I said, what's going on there? Because it was men. It was white men. And they said, we notice in the upper Midwest, at the time they were thinking about Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, Ohio to a lesser
issue. And I think observation where he said that may be true, but it may not help Harris, because that's something that could occur in Iowa where abortion was a hot issue, but it might not occur nationally in other states where abortion wasn't as salient.
We have to let you go, but really quickly, what's happening in Minnesota?
That's what I was going to ask you, that question.
Minnesota, why is that still?
They have done what sometimes they do in states. They've stopped counting votes.
Really?
And we're kind of close
After all
to.
we've been through with that?
After all we've been through?
we're at a level where we're close to statistical significance, but it's not quite there yet. And there are
Is
still.
Tim Walz in charge of that?
Yeah, well,
there you go.
Rumor has it.
We have to let you go because you have some more data crunching to do. We appreciate you coming
Thank you,
by.
Darren.
Thanks,
Really
Darren.
does help a lot.
coming
Very
by.
nice to see you guys. Thank you.
Let's check in with Aisha Hosni at the
Let's
Trump
do that.
campaign headquarters. Aisha?
Hey, you guys. Well, all signs here are pointing to perhaps imminent remarks from the former president shortly. The biggest debt giveaway was a short while ago. Somebody went onto the stage right behind me and put up the glass for the teleprompter. So perhaps somebody will be speaking to the crowd here shortly, and that might be the former president. We've got eyes outside, our security details outside watching to see if the motorcade arrives from Mar-a-Lago. I did get a video from someone at the Mar-a-Lago party a short while ago, and folks there were jubilant and cheering and clapping. They had Fox News on the screen. They were watching as we were calling states and more races for the former president. The excitement here is climbing every minute, and people here are anxiously awaiting to see if the former president shows up here tonight and perhaps gives a victory speech. Back to you.
Oh, Aisha, thanks.
Thank you very much.
Cough drop,
We'll head back there if the former President Trump is about to take the stand and speak there. So we're going to keep a close eye on that. 1 a.m. in New York. Polls have just closed. In Alaska, the Fox News decision desk said,
You do not drop it on the 1 yard line as so many players have done. So we
it is too early to call.
there and
Trump has a lead in our Fox News voter analysis, so we will get you back to Alaska when we have a little more data to report there.
And there you see 248 to 216, the Electoral College map. We are waiting on the blue wall, which could be a red wall. You just heard from Darren Shaw, and I think that data and the way he laid it out there and their decision-making really kind of lifts the curtain to how these guys operate. Based on our Fox News voter analysis, which again was 120,000 voters, that a rolling poll, and then the raw vote total that they came in. Alex Hoff is in Pennsylvania. We'll check in on the ground there. Alexandra.
Hey, good to be with you. Yeah, the crowd here in Bucks County, they are excited by some trends they are seeing, not necessarily expecting to result tonight. Pennsylvania's results and the count is historically slow. It took 4 days in 2020, but the Commonwealth Secretary does believe that it's going to be faster this time. New technology, more training will come into all this. Now, looking at Philadelphia, both the Trump and the Harris campaigns, they're saying they're outperforming there, but Team Trump feels that this could be good news for them because there are pockets of support inside of South Philadelphia, Northeast Philadelphia, and there is a saying that goes that Republicans can gauge how well they are doing in the state by how much they are losing Philadelphia by. Simply, it cuts into the margins that Democrats need. And here in Bucks County, they're seeing themselves on the screen right now. It means a lot. If he were to win this county, Bucks County, I mean, that would be the first time a Republican presidential candidate has taken this county since 1988. And these suburbs of Philadelphia, this is what pushed Biden over the edge in 2020. Harris needs to do well in these counties if she stands to have a chance of taking the state, guys. Brett, Martha?
Alex,
Thank
thanks.
you. So let's go to Bill and see, what are you cooking up over there, Bill?
You know, I was just looking at New York. You know, we heard so much about MSG and the insult comic about the Puerto Rican joke. And, you know, Trump, you know, New York's his home, right? I mean, now living in Florida, Mar-a-Lago, but just look at this. I'm going to go ahead and use the slide bar and just, okay, 8 years ago when he's running against Hillary Clinton, this is his margin in New York, all right? 37.5 compared to almost 59 for Hillary Clinton. And then against Joe Biden, it was what? Was it? Oh my gosh! It was 0.3 of a point. All right. And now we come to 2020 and see the numbers on the board here. That's a pretty decent performance. And we're just getting some insight here in the New York City. He did well over 40% of the vote here in New York as well. One thing I was checking out here, guys, in this is the number, right? Path to 270. I guess in theory right now, if you were to close out, you know, you're at 248. If you were to close out Pennsylvania, And even though Alaska has ranked choice voting, which could take a while to post a number here, nonetheless, that would put him right at the number 270. So even around the blue wall, that's possible too. That goes back to the argument that we've been talking about for some time now, that Trump had more pass to the Oval Office than Harris did. Let's go check on Pennsylvania one more time here, and we'll see. Okay, it's holding steady at 3.5. 90% of the estimated vote out there, and now we're reporting here. In Michigan, you know, the blue wall, 6.3, so that number is stuck a little bit here. Estimated somewhat, maybe 40% of the vote still missing there in Michigan and Wisconsin. You know, maybe we get some more numbers in. They got 85% of the vote in here, and, you know, Trump's holding on to this 4.2 advantage in Wisconsin. And Wisconsin, they take a lot of pride in what they do. They want to get the vote out quickly. Maybe Milwaukee notwithstanding, but the rest of the state, you know, that's their idea. So we could get that in maybe a little more as we go into what, the 2 a.m. hour? Are we going to 2 a.m. or 3? What are we doing here? Arizona sticking here at 0.7. What's that?
Just keep going.
Okay, you got it. This is Nevada, so we're starting to get our first numbers in from Nevada.
Well, it looks like they're taking their sweet time about calling it for Trump. I mean, it's clear that he's very comfortably ahead in all of the 3 blue wall states. He only has to pick up one of them, and he's got to 270. But they're gonna spin this out. They're absolutely gonna spin this out. Delay. But anyway, I think that we've got the gist of it. So I think I'm going to call it a day with this live stream. We will be back tomorrow. We're going to do a podcast tomorrow. And then, of course, Thursday, we're going to do another live stream. And we will do the post-match analysis of the election night. Anyway, so thank you, everybody who has joined us on this live stream. Hope that was fun, and see you very soon. All the best. Bye-bye.